Ladies and gents, boys and girls, what's going on? Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome into the Daily Crow. I'm Chris Phillips, your host of TDC, of the Spurs Up Show, as always, coming to you live. I see Brendan M., Xavier, Jesse Jacobs, John Edward, Colton, Peyton, Travie. What's going on? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. We have got a lot to get into, a jam-packed show today here on this Tuesday. Of course, coming up in our third hour, our Q&A Power Hour, taking all of your questions, your comments, your calls at 843-790-3377. Guys, if you cannot leave your questions in that third hour and you want to be a part of the show, shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail right now. We'll kick off the Q&A Power Hour with your comments, with your questions, all of that good stuff. Also, of course, it is Tuesday. That means in our second hour, we got our good friend JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur of Inside the Gamecocks. I join their show, of course, every single Thursday, but JC will come on, talk South Carolina, Georgia, look ahead of this weekend's game against Mississippi State as well, all that and more. Really, really excited to get JC's thoughts on everything, taking place right now. And, of course, in this first hour, got an array of different topics I want to discuss and talk about with each of you. Also, of course, it's Tuesday. We got SEC Power Rankings coming your way, our best bets for the weekend. Nobody needs a big weekend more than yours truly, because unfortunately, the haters will say the downfall has begun. They will. The haters will say it's begun. And you know what? Unfortunately, the numbers say that. But you know what? Just like South Carolina, backs against the wall, right? We meet resistance. We show our resiliency. We show our toughness. We press forward. We push through it. And we bounce back above all else. So, we'll get to the gambling side of stuff later in the show as well, guys. A couple of quick things. I already see a comment, I think on YouTube, by the way, whether you're tuned in via Twitter, Facebook, what have you, or YouTube. Thank you all so much for being part of the show. As you see, this is a Roback polo here. Roback polo. It's actually got the state of South Carolina like all over it. That's what these little garnet things are. It's the state of South Carolina. So, really, really cool, guys. If you go to roback.com right now, create a new account, and use the promo code SPURSUP, SPURSUP, you'll get 20% off your entire purchase. By the way, you'll be also supporting TSUS in the process. But, guys, 20% off this polo. I mean, this thing is really, really nice. And their other products are great as well. They sent me a hoodie as well that at some point I'll be rocking on this show, guys. And, again, appreciate those folks at Roback. But, again, roback.com. Use that promo code SPURSUP, SPURSUP, to get 20% off. 20% off is significant, especially when, Gavin points out those Roback shirts are very, very, or can be a little bit pricey. But to be fair, I mean, you look at the Under Armour polos and stuff like that. I mean, they're really expensive too. So this has got to be, I'll say this. This is one of the most comfortable polos I've ever put on. Like, this thing is so convenient, so comfy, so lightweight. I'd wear it to church, to play golf in, out and about, whatever it might be. I mean, you don't even really need a reason. I wear this thing around the house. I'll sleep in this thing. But anyways, in case any of you guys missed it, this partnership's been active for about a month, but want to make you all aware, if you go to roback.com, use that promo code SPURSUP, you will get 20% off your purchase, and you'll be supporting TSUS in the process. Also, guys, really excited. We've been getting requests for this for a while. But women's apparel has officially arrived to tsus.store. If you go to the store right now, we actually have a full-on women's collection. You'll see the tab on the left-hand side of the store. We've got a bunch of crop T-shirts in there right now. We have a hat as well. I know there were some folks commenting, asking for women's cut T-shirts. So if you could reach out to me, I would love to get that out there, because we have a lot of different variants, a lot of different options. We can throw up women's specific T-shirts, hoodies, crop tops, all that good stuff. So again, guys, really excited to provide that. So if your wife, your daughter, whoever, they need some merchandise, we got you covered. Everything from Beamer Ball, Beamer, Rattler, Clem Sucks. We're going to continue to add some of our top selling items as well to that collection. But the bottom line is this: women's apparel now on tsus.store. And let me also remind you guys one more time, On Saturday, our good friend will be out there. We'll have a guy, our merch guy, will be out and about selling merchandise on game day, 1212 Bluff Road. It's the S&G parking lot by Waffle House right next to Williams-Brice Stadium. We will have a table set up with Beamer Ball t-shirts, garnet black and white. We will have hats. We will have koozies. We will have towels. We will have Tervis cups. You name it, we'll have it. There'll be stickers as well, all kinds of stuff, guys. We're going to be loaded up when it comes to merchandise. So, one of two options for you. If you want the Beamer Ball towel specifically, you have until midnight to order at tsus.store to guarantee by kickoff delivery for this weekend's game. If you would rather get it on game day, which is totally fine with me, it'll be the same price. You won't have to pay shipping, guys. You can go to that stand. Our guy will be out there noon to 6 before the game. He will be out there, the S&G parking lot right next to Waffle House, right by Williams-Brice Stadium. So you can now get your TSUS merchandise on game day. Really exciting stuff, guys. And if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. But really, really excited the fact that we're able to sell merchandise to this level on game day this season, right? Last year, we had the towels and we had the koozies, and that was it. Now we've got the full array of merchandise available for you guys. Again, t-shirts, hats, koozies, towels. We'll probably, as we get closer to later in the season, we'll have hoodies, long sleeves, all that good stuff. So again, guys, really, really exciting stuff on the merchandise side of the business, and really appreciate you all. Lynn Turner, nice golf shirt. You gave me the women's wear. It needs something not cropped. Again, this is why I said reach out to me, because we can put up women's specifically cut t-shirts. They don't have to be cropped t-shirts. So you let me know, Lynn, exactly what designs you are interested in. Whether you want Beamer Ball, Beamer Rattler, Clemsucks, whatever designs you're most interested in, I can get those up on the store. Again, since we went back to our old way of doing merchandise, I have much more creative control, much more creative freedom, which I am really excited about. And again, Lynn, in case you missed it, yes, we have the specifically a women's collection. Now it's all going to be put together where it's not, we just have like one-off crop top or one-off shirt. Now there's going to be an entire women's collection. That's something I'm going to continue to work on throughout today, tonight, and tomorrow. I think we'll be ready to announce that on social media and release that. But it is active. It is live right now on the store, tsus.store and or thespursupshow.com. And Lynn, thank you. I am very sorry that it took so long, to be frank with you and to be blunt with you. Anyways, guys, like I mentioned, we got a packed show, a lot to get into. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. And also, Colton says they're out of medium and extra large sizes. Colton, I would definitely say on the Roback side of things, peruse through their store, because they've got more. This is called the Cola, which is a really, really cool polo, but they've got a lot more on there as well that I think you guys will be interesting in. The Roback stuff, I want more. I don't know if they're willing to hook me up with more, but I need another care package. I might have to hit up my people. Either way, guys, like I mentioned, pack show, Q&A Power Hour in hour number 3, JC Shurburtt in hour number 2. And in the meantime, an array of topics, array of things to discuss. And I want to start this show, guys, on a little bit of a different note. You guys might notice this by now, but Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays of the show are very structured, right? Mondays, we have our full takeaways from not just South Carolina, but the SEC as well. Thursdays and Fridays, we're doing things from, top storylines to key matchups to predictions to, we have all of our content for the most part set. Obviously, we're able to move and navigate if we have breaking news or things that come up. But you might notice Tuesdays and Wednesdays are really the days that I look at that we have an opening where I can talk about whatever, right? It's kind of it gives me some creative freedom to whatever comes to the top of my mind, I can discuss. Either way, we now turn our attention to South Carolina, Mississippi State. And the Gamecocks find themselves through 3 games in a very similar position. You could argue the exact position of what we saw a season ago when South Carolina was 1-2 and left picking up the pieces after a loss to Georgia. Now, this is a little bit different, right? Because South Carolina did not just lose 48-7 to the Dogs. And there's a lot of reason for hope and optimism and belief that this season, South Carolina can achieve most of, if not all of their goals in this season. We've seen 3 games thus far, right, from this Gamecocks football team. A frustrating from start to finish loss to North Carolina in the season opener, a game in which South Carolina surrendered 9 sacks in that ball game. A bounce-back win on the home turf against Furman, a game in which, again, South Carolina got off to a very slow start, but was able to rebound and really put their foot on the gas pedal and pour it on late in that football game to get a feel-good, get-right type of win, if you will. And then the game against Georgia. 2 stellar quarters of play, leading 14-3 at halftime, outscored 21-0 in the second half to fall 24-14. And so it's been a bit of a mixed bag, I think, to this point, guys, in the sense of there's been some good things, there's been some bad things, and there's been some ugly things. And so now here come the Mississippi State Bulldogs, sitting at 2-1, coming off a bad loss of their own against the LSU Tigers. Mississippi State, a team that is reeling offensively, right? They're in the transition period. The late, great Mike Leach, RIP, the Pirate, but they have gone completely away from everything that Mike Leach was about in his time in Starkville, the air raid, and gone to a more traditional pro-style, balanced type of offense. And so far, the results have been less than stellar, if you will. So Mississippi State, a team coming into this one, somewhat reeling, looking for a bounce back. Apparently, they held a players-only meeting, right, to rally the troops. I think the phrase, guys, must win is thrown around too much, right? Because really, when you think about it, unless it's an elimination game of some sort, it's not a must win if we're not using the term lightly. But when I view this game, guys, this game to me truly serves as the first real measuring stick type of contest for South Carolina this season. And the reason I say that is this. Not that we didn't get an idea of where South Carolina was as a team against North Carolina and Georgia. I don't really count Furman, right? Because wins against FCS competition. This season was never about beating Furman, all due respect to the Paladins. But we got an idea of where South Carolina was. Don't get me wrong against North Carolina and Georgia, but you look at both of those teams, right? Both in the top 25. I think North Carolina is probably going to be a 9 or maybe even 10-win team. Georgia, obviously, number 1 in the country. You know, you can argue whether you think they're going to lose a game or 2 or maybe more, but I think Georgia, I think we're going to see the Dogs, obviously, in Atlanta in the SEC title. I think we're going to see them in the college football playoff as well. I think Georgia will get it rolling and get it figured out. So I'm not sure we really know what South Carolina is yet, because those 2 teams that South Carolina has lost to be fair, are above you, if that makes sense, for lack of a better way of putting it. Again, both top 25 teams, both teams that are going to go on to be 9 or 10-plus win teams. But where does South Carolina fall? We always knew the Gamecocks were going to be a middle-of-the-pack SEC team, right? I don't think anybody came to this season thinking South Carolina was ready to challenge the elites or be in the upper echelon. But just where in the middle of the pack do the Gamecocks fall? And so while I will not label this game a must-win, it's as close to a must-win as it gets. When you think about the fact that we look back at last year, right? Gamecocks were 1-2. The luxury you had, though, in that situation was South Carolina had Charlotte and SC State games following that tough stretch to open the year. You were able to bounce back, get your feet under you, and get to 3-2 and build some momentum before that big Kentucky game we might all recall. You don't have that luxury this year. games against Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Florida all looming. This is a game that is going to tell us a lot. Because South Carolina fans, many folks are looking at this game. This is a no-brainer, must win or easy win. South Carolina's going to win this football game. Mississippi State's no good. I am terrified of this game. No other way to put it. Not because I think Mississippi State is some juggernaut, that I think there's some elite football team, but I think this isn't just a measuring stick game for this team this year. This is a measuring stick game for South Carolina football. This is a measuring stick game for Shane Beamer's program. Because we have seen South Carolina football in these type of scenarios, and we have seen them fall flat on their face in grand fashion, guys. And I don't mean to be someone, I'm not trying to put negative energy out there, but I'm just calling it as is. We have seen this movie before, and the ship is still sunk. Now, that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen on Saturday. But I think Saturday will tell us, is this Gamecocks football team ready to bounce back from a difficult stretch and build off of what they've done to this point? Do we see South Carolina have one of those maddening performances where it just does not make any logical sense, and we're left scratching our heads wondering, like, where do you go from here? What happened to this team that we saw that we were so encouraged by in the Georgia game? And so we do these SEC power rankings, for example, weekly. This is the type of game that tells you, is South Carolina going to be around 10th to 14th all throughout this season? Or do they have the chance to be 4th through 8th all throughout this season? Like, where do you fall in the SEC hierarchy of a bunch of teams where anybody could beat anybody? And that's truly what the SEC is this year, guys. We've seen the parity. We've seen, all kinds of mixed bag of results. It's crazy right now what's going on in the Southeastern Conference. But I'm not sure you were really able to gauge what South Carolina is as a football program against Georgia, because Georgia's head and shoulders above you, and I know South Carolina gave a valiant effort in that first half. But I don't really know, there's no denying South Carolina's not on Georgia's level yet. Week 1, do you call that a wash? North Carolina dominated you practically in the trenches, and we'd like to think South Carolina has made a lot of forward progression since then. Furman, you can't take much from that, guys. It's an FCS opponent. I think this is the first true measuring stick type of contest where we start to find out what South Carolina is. How much has the offensive line improved? Is there a running game in sight anywhere? Is Spencer Rattler able to keep up his Heisman caliber, I would say, level of play? Does the wide receiving core continue to develop with Xavier Legette leading the way and some other young guys stepping up? Are the tight ends going to finally start to come into their own? Defensively, are the Gamecocks able to slow down the running game, right? Make big plays defensively, get back to being an opportunistic defense and forcing turnovers? Does Beamer ball finally get back on track and be the Beamer ball we've seen before that we all know and love? I look at this game, and the reason, guys, I label it this measuring stick type of contest is because, again, I think this is the team. This is the first team you've played this season you are most on equal footing with. Georgia, head and shoulders above you. Furman, you're head and shoulders above them. And North Carolina, as much as people may hate to hear it, I think UNC's above you as well. And like I said, I'm still kicking myself weeks later for not picking the Tar Heels to win that football game, and I knew more than likely Juice Wells was not going to be himself in that game. Either way, that's water under the bridge. That's behind us now. But despite what happened last week with Mississippi State getting blown out by LSU, what have you, I see these two teams, these two programs, guys, you talk to anybody, very similar programs. Very, very similar programs, right? Neither have had a ton of significant success. Both have had like pockets, right? South Carolina under Steve Spurrier for 3 years, and of course, the Dak Prescott era under Dan Mullen back when he was there. I see these two programs, I see these two football teams this year on equal playing fields. And something's got to give on Saturday night. I mean, you look, it's interesting, guys. South Carolina, one of the worst in the SEC defensively across the board in all the major statistics. Mississippi State, one of the worst offensively across the board, right? Something's got to give in that regard. You got a pair of quarterbacks in Spencer Rattler and Will Rogers that are due battle. Will Rogers looking to bounce back and get going, and of course, Spencer Rattler looking to keep this thing going. It's a fascinating game in my mind, guys. It really is. It really is. Because it's one of those games that, you know, there really was no shame. I mean, the way that it happened, losing to North Carolina, was what was really tough to stomach. But there was no real shame, right? UNC was favored all offseason. They were supposed to win the football game. Obviously, no shame in losing to Georgia. They were supposed to win the football game. But this is one on the home field against a team like Mississippi State, a 50-50 toss-up game. But year 3 of the Shane Beamer era. This is one you got to have. Just flat out, this is a toss-up game you have to have. We've talked a lot about Shane Beamer in year 3 and popping off in year 3 and making positive progress and making strides. And, you know, listen, we've talked about the Georgia game. We've put it behind us. That's great. The fact of the matter is you lost. It is what it is. If you don't follow it up with showing more progress and taking the good things you did against Georgia and implementing it into the Mississippi State game and winning that football game, if you don't do that, nobody's going to give a damn that you gave Georgia a fight for 30 minutes. It's not going to matter. It's a building process. And so we've already established, it seems, right, that Shane Beamer and company, this ain't going to be the football program that, like some out there, is using the portal to turn this thing around overnight. You can dislike that statement all you want, but it's obvious that's how we're operating, and that's okay. I think Shane Beamer should get a lot of time. When he was hired, I said, hey, I think Gamecock fans need to buckle up and be in this thing for the next decade. Just let him work. Let him operate. See what happens. You roll the dice. Let him grow into the role. But if that's what it's going to be, you need to be taking small steps forward. And so when you go into an Athens and you show encouraging signs, which I would call that first 30 minutes an encouraging sign, you got to be able to follow up and build off of it. And that's what this game is. The phrase must win gets thrown around a lot. And I think it gets thrown around too much. However, this game against Mississippi State, it's as close to must win as you can get. Because you win this game, hey, you keep 7 or 8 wins within striking distance. And I know there's a lot of football left. Don't get me wrong. Beat Mississippi State, you keep 7 or 8 wins within striking distance. Lose to Mississippi State, you lose this football game, guys. There are some very bleak realities that start to become realities. Like, this could be a 4 or 5 win football team if you lose to Mississippi State. And we're going to find out a lot, guys. Not just about, is this team this year ready to take a step forward, but this program as well under Shane Beamer. Because it's this kind of game against Mississippi State, this toss-up game, this game in which all of Gamecock Nation is expecting a victory. South Carolina's even favored in the football game. It's this type of game that over the long, frustrating history of South Carolina football, we have grown well too accustomed to seeing South Carolina crash and burn. That cannot be the case on Saturday night for South Carolina, not just for this season and the sake of the 2023 campaign, but for the sake of this program under Shane Beamer as well. Maybe must win is too strong of a phrase, but it's as close to a must-win as it gets early in the 2023 football season. Guys, that being said, let's jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Macho Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. As always, again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Continue to leave us your questions, your comments, and give us a call as well, guys. As we look ahead of this weekend, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Gamecocks will host the Bulldogs in the SEC home opener under the lights at Williams-Brice Stadium. How about this, guys? It's already a sellout. And from what folks have told me, the ticket prices are absolutely insane ahead of this weekend. So if you've got a ticket, I guess it's like gold this weekend. I don't know. People are excited to watch Gamecocks football, and that's something that we love to hear. Again, guys, we keep the conversation rolling. Don't forget, we've got JC Shurburtt also upcoming at 1:15. Really excited to get JC's thoughts on everything. But in the meantime, of course, it is Tuesday, which means we're talking SEC Power Rankings entering week 4 of the 2023 college football season. And guys, let me start by saying this. To say there was a lot of shakeup in our SEC Power Rankings this week would be putting it lightly. And let me also address something really quickly, because I was questioned. It really does be your own people, man. I was questioned by folks in the Big Cock Club Discord about, well, how do you even come up with these SEC power rankings? Well, this doesn't make sense. What does this mean? Is it based off who'd beat what team? Is it based off of standings? Is it based off of Vegas? Let me make it very clear. These SEC power rankings, in not all instances is it based off, would Team A in this slot beat Team B in this slot. That has something to do with it. So it's based off a number of different things, right? Simply put, how I just view each team right now. That previous weekend's results, body of work to that point, how teams would fare against each other. And then just, again, my overall viewpoint of these teams. So if you want to argue and complain about what power rankings mean, it shouldn't be called power rankings. Well, too bad. It is the Spurs Up Show, Chris Phillips's SEC Power Rankings Week 4, and I will put my stamp on that. Either way, I wanted to preface, because we got some major shakeup in the Power Rankings this week. We start at number 14. One thing that has not changed. The Vanderbilt Commodores in the number 14 spot. You know, I'm so disappointed with Clark Lee and Vanderbilt football, because I really thought this was going to be the season where we saw Vandy climb out of the cellar. I really thought after last year, you know, beating Florida, beating Kentucky, right? They were sort of that sexy team to talk about over the offseason, that, you know, Vandy's on the up and up under Clark Lee. And I still like Clark Lee. Don't get me wrong. I still do. But losing to UNLV and then allowing UNLV to troll the SEC after. Guys, I don't think Vandy, and it's easy to say this right now, they got a big one coming up this weekend against Kentucky in Nashville, a game that Mark Stoops in Kentucky, they've absolutely got to have. I don't see Vandy winning an SEC game. I really don't. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know, you know, and it's crazy, right? The SEC's crazy this year. I don't think you can say that with 100% guarantee. I wouldn't bet on the fact that Vandy won't win another game this year. But the over-under 3.5 win total in Vegas, so many. I saw so many people this summer locking in over 3.5. And I think you got to be sweating if you got that ticket right now. So Vanderbilt at the 14 spot, it's going to take a lot to get them out and place somebody else down there. At number 13, I have the Gamecocks Week 4 opponent, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And while it felt drastic to put them down here, guys, I had Mississippi State plus 10. I thought the Bulldogs were going to give LSU everything they wanted more, and boy, was I wrong. Will Rogers and this offense is broken right now. I mean, we knew there was going to be a transition, right? But you really have to question, what is Kevin Barbay doing offensively? And, dude, Mississippi State Bulldog fans are already complaining about Zach Arnett and the job he's doing. Our good friend Stingray Steve shooting me a DM over the weekend. Y'all are going to kill us. There's no way South Carolina's going to beat Mississippi State by 50, man. Zach Arnett's not the guy. He's a defensive coordinator. It's just one loss, right? It's just one loss for State. And it doesn't take away, throw away what they did in week one, right? Southeastern Louisiana, whatever. They had to win the turnover margin 5-1 to beat Arizona in overtime. And then at no point in the game it felt like looked competitive on Saturday. Had 7 yards of offense just before halftime when State finally put together a drive. Mississippi State's got a lot to figure out, man. Just offensively especially. You've got to find a way to get Will Rogers back on the saddle, to get Will Rogers back going again, right? Because what we've seen thus far, I know they want to run the football, and I know they want to have balance, right? They still have experience on both lines of scrimmage, although you look at the offensive line, they were terrible because this is an offensive line geared to pass block, to block for the air raid, not block for this balanced attack and what they're asking them to do. I still think Mississippi State, there's hope for them to make a bowl game, and they've got good players. They've got veteran players. They've got veteran presence. They've got veteran leadership. They need that more than ever right now. Really, really ugly loss for them against LSU, which, granted, give LSU credit. But I don't know what to think about Mississippi State right now and Zach Arnett and just the offense. And that's the most concerning thing, how bad they are offensively. At number 12, and here's where things start to get a little crazy, admittedly. At number 12, I got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Guys, I don't know if anybody looked worse in college football than Alabama did over the weekend. And even though that, because they won, 107 passing yards. Like, you could argue there's 7 or 8 SEC teams that would have beaten Alabama over the weekend. There's a number of SEC teams that would have taken down Alabama. And I know Nick Saban has already, made the move. Jalen Milroe is going to be the starting quarterback this Saturday when Bama takes on Ole Miss. I think that's something they had to do, right? But to go to South Florida, and guys, that game was 3-3 forever. I know it was a rain delay game and some weird things and coming off the Texas game, but dude, Bama's got real problems beyond quarterback, right? Line of scrimmage, no discipline. You got former Bama players coming out saying the dynasty is over, right? This team is no good. Things are in disarray in Tuscaloosa. And you start to wonder, is Nick Saban going to pull a Steve Spurrier and walk away at some point this season if it gets bad enough? Now, do I expect Alabama to turn it around? You guys will hear my predictions later in the week. You would think so. It would surprise me greatly if Bama just crashed and burned and that was all she wrote for Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa. But there are real problems. Alabama, it's not lip service. It's not everybody wants to call the dynasty dying. Dude, they've got problems. They got issues. That South Florida game was as ugly as you are ever going to see. 107 total passing yards and not being able to bully South Florida up front, surrendering multiple sacks to the Bulls. Bama's got real issues. They're at number 12 in my rankings. At number 11, I've got the Tennessee Volunteers. Dude, what is Tennessee? What is Tennessee going to end up being is my question. Because they sit 2-1 right now. Wins over a really bad Virginia team. And then Austin Peay. Tennessee had an opportunity to go into the swamp, quiet the naysayers, get that gator-sized monkey off their back, right, in that losing streak in Gainesville. Joe Milton show out and show that he's ready to fill in and be the guy. And I don't think he played terribly like we said before. But you got dominated in the first half. 26-7 was it at halftime? Tennessee can't stop anybody on the ground. That great defensive line we thought they had. Trevor Etienne runs all over you. And I think now we have no clue who the second best team in the SEC East is. At least right now. I think there's some, as we get through this list, there's some making their case. But, we were all convinced Tennessee was the fourth best team in the SEC. And you know what? Maybe this is a minor setback. Maybe they do end up being that team. But a brutal loss to Florida. A Florida team that, again, we had 13th in these rankings just last week. And a sneaky game coming up this weekend with UTSA. You better not mess around and let Florida beat you twice. Where does Tennessee go from here? I think it all but assures that back-to-back double-digit win seasons are out the door. And now you just got to make sure you're able to pick up the pieces and keep things intact to get to, 8 or 9 wins, which I think is where a lot of folks had this Tennessee football team. But losing to Billy Napier's Florida Gators, not many were willing to go on record and say that was going to happen, but that's exactly where we sit at this point. At number 10, I've got the Arkansas Razorbacks. Man, what a loss, dude. What a loss to BYU. I mean, just you look at the numbers, right? Arkansas outplayed BYU, it looked like, for a lot of the game. But Arkansas just not able to make the big plays when it mattered most. And by the way, I want to point out, the reason I have Arkansas ahead of Tennessee right here, I've got more faith in KJ Jefferson than Joe Milton. That's really the big reason if you want to know. But Arkansas' schedule, right, played 2 cupcakes to open it up. We didn't know a ton about them. This team's got to get Rocket Sanders back. They've got to get Rocket Sanders back, man. They are a shell of themselves without Rocket Sanders. And I feel bad for Sam Pittman, man. In year 4, he's beloved in the SEC, one of the most electric coaches to listen to at the podium. And obviously he's an Arkansas guy. He's got a freaking hog statue in his yard. But, I mean, that to me, guys, we talked about it last week. That felt like a game that against BYU you had to have. And give credit to BYU. Give credit to their program. Give credit to Slovis, their quarterback. Going into Fayetteville and winning, that was a hell of a win. But you just cannot allow that to happen if you're the Hogs. You cannot allow that to happen if you're Sam Pittman in year 4 of your program, because the questions, the chatter, it is only getting louder and louder and louder. At number 9, I got the Auburn Tigers. A ho-hum type of win over Samford. We'll start to learn a lot more this weekend about Auburn as they take on the Texas A&M Aggies. And then Georgia following that. But I think Auburn, they stay in the exact spot they were in last week. 3-0, right? Undefeated right now. Again, one of those wins, you have a Power 5 win over Cal, which those are very valuable in the SEC right now because a lot of teams are not beating Power 5 opponents for whatever reason. So, I think Auburn, I'm most curious to see what they are offensively. Is Peyton Thorne able to take a step forward this week going into SEC play, right? Was not all that great against Samford. I'm kind of on the fence right now with Auburn of which way they're going to go, right? Are they going to be that surprise 8-win team? Or are they more kind of the 6-6 where I thought they were going to be in the preseason again? These next 2 weeks are going to tell us a lot for sure. At number 8, I've got South Carolina. Gamecocks jump up 3 spots in my power rankings and jump up 3 spots after a loss. But not all wins and losses are built equally, right? And you go on the road and you stand toe-to-toe with Georgia for a half, leading them 14-3. I know the second half was ugly. But I think when you factor in 2 things. Number 1, I think Saturday gave us a lot of promise that South Carolina is going to be much better than maybe we thought after week 1, right? That maybe plugging in some young guys on the offensive line is going to help that group moving forward. And then on the defensive side, if the defensive front can be as active as they were in that first half, you might have something there. But I think the main thing that I look at and makes me want to move South Carolina up and makes the Gamecocks more of a player than some of these other teams below them and maybe even some of these teams above them. And we'll see if it carries over as the season goes. But the way Spencer Rattler's playing, like I think Saturday against Georgia, yes, he had the 2 picks late, whatever. And if you just blindly look at the stats, you didn't watch that game, you would think, okay, Rattler didn't play that well. You know, I saw some Saturday Down South article where they said that Rattler's inconsistencies and he's not that good. Dude, second half, Georgia knew he had to pass, knew South Carolina was passing. They pinned their ears back, and he did all he could. You can't put that blame on Rattler. I think Saturday actually showed us that Spencer Rattler's for real this year. And, like, this is who he's going to be. Now, I'm not telling you he's not going to have an off game at some point because he is human. You got to keep your fingers crossed that when his off game comes, it's in matchups where South Carolina, you know, is maybe able to generate a running game and pull those games out. But I think no quarterback is playing better than Spencer Rattler right now in the SEC. No quarterback. No quarterback is doing more for their team right now than Spencer Rattler's doing for the Gamecocks. So, all of those reasons, I think South Carolina deserve to move up to number 8, jumping up 3 spots even after a loss because, again, not all wins and losses are built equally. At number 7, I've got the Texas A&M Aggies. Yes, they had that brutal loss 2 weeks ago, and I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. But an A&M team, nice bounce-back win over La Monroe. And I think A&M, a team that, again, you saw the defense respond the right way. I think Miami is a really good football team. Let's give credit to Miami. So you look at that loss in the grand scheme of things, is that a terrible loss? I think for the hopes and the expectations of Aggie Nation, I think it's a terrible loss. I think when you look at it as, did you lose to a piss-poor opponent or somebody good? Like, Miami's a good team. Miami's a good football team. So I think Texas A&M, again, we'll start to learn more about them this weekend as they begin SEC play. They've got the Auburn Tigers I mentioned. This is a must-win game for Jimbo Fisher, right? This is one he's got to have. I mean, they lose to Auburn, they'll start pulling together that money immediately to pay his buyout. Massive game upcoming. I've got A&M at number 7. At number 6, I've got the Kentucky Wildcats. Guys, you can hate this placement all you want, but all Kentucky's done is beat the teams on their schedule the first 3 weeks. That's all they've done, right? And I think Devin Leary's starting to roll. Ray Davis is getting real comfortable in that offensive scheme. Kentucky's defense looked really, really solid on Saturday night, holding Akron to just 3 points. Now they roll into Nashville and take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. That's one that, you know, I think most folks say they're a 2-touchdown favorite. Most folks are expecting Kentucky to handle. What all Kentucky's doing is beating the teams on their schedule, guys. You can love that. You can hate that, what have you, but that is the reality. So Kentucky, no reason to move them down. I have them 6th in our power rankings. Now to the top 5. At number 5, and what a jump. I don't know if there will be a greater jump than 8 spots in any given week, but that's what we have this week because at number 5, I've got the Florida Gators. Guys, as I told you, we did not know what Florida was going in this past weekend because the loss in week 1 to Utah, while it was ugly, a lot of SEC teams would have lost to Utah, right? Many SEC teams would have. Then the Gators bounced back, beat McNeese, ho-hum, who cares? This game against Tennessee was the game that I felt like was going to tell us, all right, what do we have in Florida here? And I'm not saying this win assures they're going to win 8 games or something like that, but that was a hell of a win for Billy Napier and company. That was a big-time W, man. And the way in which they did it, too. Whipping Tennessee up front on both sides. I think Graham Mertz, I think he's a little bit better than we all gave credit for. He's a game manager. There's no question. But as long as Graham Mertz can play his role, guys, and Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson are running the football at a high level, and, you know, Graham Mertz is simply just being a distributor of the football. He doesn't have to play hero ball, right? That defense, I think, under Austin Armstrong's for real. I think Florida's a sneaky team this year. I think Florida's got something. And that was arguably the best win by any SEC team to this point in the season. Huge to take down Tennessee, man. Huge. And the fashion in which it happened, up 26-7 at half, I mean, a dominating performance. What felt like start to finish. The Florida Gators have earned it. I mean, they just flat out have earned it, guys. Florida earned it, and that is why they sit at number 5. Speaking of teams that have earned it, at number 4, I got the Missouri Tigers. Guys, this Mizzou team, I doubted them. I doubted them hard, too. I felt like because of Eli Drinkwitz, what they had always been under him, right, a 500 program, 500 ball club, and also giving credit to Kansas State, a good football team. Massive win from Mizzou, man. Huge. The thicker kicker hits the 61-yarder as time expires. And Brady Cook was fantastic on Saturday. Guys, with that defense, if Brady Cook is playing that way, Mizzou's going to be a tough out for everybody this year. Now, they got a big one this weekend against Memphis, right? Mizzou just a 7-point favorite. Big game against Memphis. They win that one, though, all of a sudden, you're more than likely seeing Mizzou being 5-0 with LSU coming to town. Heck of a win, a top 25 win, and for that reason, Mizzou slides all the way up into the top 5. At number 3, I've got the Ole Miss Rebels. It was closer than the final score appeared, but Ole Miss able to pull away the second half. Again, guys, we're going to learn a lot more about them as well this weekend when they take on Alabama. But, I mean, right now, guys, and as you've noticed, right, I mean, it's nobody's SEC power rankings are right at this point. Like, it is a jumbled mess from 3 through 14, basically. 3 through 13, we'll say. But you got to give credit where credit's due, man. Ole Miss, a couple of Power 5 wins. They're undefeated. That win against Tulane was really nice. Took care of your business against Georgia Tech. Jackson Dart is playing well. They got to get Quinshon Judkins going, man. That's the big thing. They have to get Quinshon Judkins going. I think those issues could rear their ugly head as they begin SEC play. But if they do get Quinshon Judkins rolling, this is going to be a really, really dangerous Ole Miss team. At number 2, I got the LSU Tigers. Guys, an impressive win. I mean, it's just a dominating. There's no such thing as a bad road win in the SEC, and especially when you do it in the fashion in which they did over Mississippi State, man. Jaden Daniels was nearly perfect. Malik Neighbors showed why he's arguably the best wide receiver in the SEC. I thought the running game got going with Logan Diggs. You know, the offensive line played well defensively. I thought LSU was swarming, attacking. I mean, the defense gave you everything you could have asked for. That looked like the complete LSU Tiger performance that we had all been waiting on and we had all been looking for. I love what I saw from LSU. I think easily right now they are the second best team in the SEC. Heck, you could maybe even argue, maybe for a moment, argue that they're the best team in the SEC. But this week, until they're knocked off their pedestal, guys, I've got the Georgia Bulldogs number 1 in my SEC power rankings. I think South Carolina exposed some deficiencies, some problems that Georgia has, right? Because this is a work in progress. You look at the Dogs, guys, you know, Carson Beck under center. Like, Georgia's schedule could not have set up any better than it did for them, for this year's team. Getting the 2 cupcakes to open, getting a South Carolina team still sort of figuring it out, and then getting UAB this weekend, right? They're a 42-point favorite this weekend. But Georgia's banged up, man. Banged up across the board, from Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers to the running back room to even the defensive side. They lost, their I believe, one of their tackles, Mims, on Saturday against South Carolina. But until Georgia is knocked out of this spot, I cannot in good conscience take the Dogs out of number 1. Again, back-to-back national champions. There's no such thing as a bad one in the SEC, even when you were a 4-touchdown favorite and you beat South Carolina by just 10. I think that Mike Bobo and company, they got to take the training wheels off Carson Beck. They got to let him go down the field. They got to let him take some shots. They've also got to get healthy, right, on both sides of the football. But for right now, again, until Georgia falls or LSU does so much or somebody else does so much, they deserve to knock the Dogs out that one spot. I've got the Georgia Bulldogs sitting firmly at number 1 in our SEC power rankings heading into week 4 of the 2023 college football season. Guys, we're going to jump into another quick break. On the other side, we will keep the conversation rolling here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
That's your Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Hold on, I think our mouse just died. Believe it or not, the wireless mouse just took a tumble. So we're going to charge this guy in the meantime. I do apologize for that. Let me also say, by the way, I'm seeing in the comments more questions about the power rankings. This how you do there's too much fluidity. Guys, some teams deserve to drop if they play like shit. Like, Bama should not be in the top 5 for looking like dog shit. You know what I mean? Like, am I saying that South Carolina would beat Alabama tomorrow? Not necessarily. But, guys, it's a fluid thing, man. If the SEC power rankings were going to stay the same and barely move at all, there'd be no point in doing them. Like, I'm not telling you that it's just like meaningless banter. I'm not saying that. But again, if we just really what do you want to do? Just rank? You want to rank the teams off of talent level? Is that what we're going to rank them off of? Like, they got to move. They have to move. It has to move. If you play like shit, if you play like ass, I think the best way to describe my SEC power rankings is based off of who deserves to be where. I'll go with that. Who deserves to be where? How have you looked? How have you played? Yeah, that's about it. That's about it. How have you looked? How have you played? And, if you look like shit against South Florida, you deserve to drop down a bunch of spots. If you don't know who your quarterback is, you deserve to drop down a bunch of spots. Bottom line, you do. You do. Yes, Coach Ford, it is a fluid thing. Yes, Coach Ford, if it wasn't, I could give one power ranking at the beginning of the season and the end and be done with it. Yes, it's a very fluid thing. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun. For you to not think it'd be a fluid thing is crazy. So, just wanted to get that out there. Either way, guys, as I mentioned before, we got JC Shurburtt upcoming at 1:15. The Q&A Power Hour upcoming in our third hour. But for now, we're talking gambling. And nobody on God's green earth needs a good weekend, a bounce-back weekend more than yours truly. I saw Andy Staples went 0-8 last weekend in his gambling picks, which is wildly impressive when you think about it. Well, I gave him a run for his money because I went 1-6. Thank God for North Carolina taking down Minnesota to put me one in the win column. We sit right now 10-14. Some folks out there will say that the downfall is on. The downfall is imminent. I say, not so fast, my friend. To quote the great Lee Corso. I got 7 games here. Actually, 8. Excuse me. We got 8 ball games. We're going 8-0. I'm calling it right now. We start NC State taking on Virginia. We're gonna get the winnings going on a Friday night. NC State taking on Virginia. NC State a 9-point favorite. I am hammering the Wolfpack here. I know that NC State's not some great team, but guys, have you watched Virginia football? Have you watched UVA football? NC State 2-1 right now. They had a tough one against UConn to open up. Lost to Notre Dame, no shame in that, and then beat VMI 45-7. I think Virginia team, I know they'll be fired up. They'll be inspired at home. I've got NC State covering the -9. I think NC State gets a big, big win, double digits. I don't think this one is ever close. Auburn, Texas A&M. You look at this game, guys, I think there's going to be points, and points. Texas A&M haven't been able to stop anybody. Auburn offensively with Hugh Freeze, I think he'll have a great game plan. And I think Connor Wegman and Texas A&M, that is the strength of this football team. Over 53.5 is what I'm rolling with. I'm expecting points in this game, guys. I think there's going to be a lot of points, high scoring, one of the most fun games of the weekend. And it's a game, obviously, that Texas A&M and Jimbo have to have. We move to the game between Alabama and Ole Miss in Tuscaloosa. Speaking of a game that a team needs to have, Bama looking for a major bounce back. It's weird to say that after a win, but the way in which they won, guys, obviously, as we've talked before, just absolutely brutal. Jalen Milroe back under center. Ole Miss, been a really good team this year. Jackson Dart. Guys, I think Bama bounces back. I got Alabama -7. I think they win this game by double digits. I think this is kind of a get-right game for the Crimson Tide. Even myself, everyone doubting Bama, Nick Saban, and they're terrible. Like, I think Bama reminds us on Saturday that this is still a roster loaded with talent. I think Jalen Milroe reminds everyone that, hey, there's a reason I was named starting quarterback and I should have never been benched. I think Ole Miss is a good team, but I think Alabama right now, man, backs against the wall. I think they will play their best. And I like Alabama to cover the -7 on the home field. I'm just not buying this whole thing that Alabama is going to tailspin into 7-5 or 6-6 or what have you. You know, I think 9-3 is very possible, but there's still so much talent on this Bama roster. I think they cover the -7, guys. We move to the Battle of the Golden Boot. Arkansas taking on LSU. I know Arkansas hadn't been great, guys. LSU looked fantastic last week, and I like the Hogs plus 17.5, though. This series has got a weird way of producing some really, really fun, entertaining, close ball games. I think it'll be another one, guys. I think this is one of those games that, you know, what is the status of Rocket Sanders? I think KJ Jefferson, though, I think he keeps you in this football game. I'm not sure I'm picking Arkansas to win this thing straight up, but I think LSU and Arkansas will be another classic. I think Arkansas covers the 17.5. We go to Columbia, South Carolina, Mississippi State. I'm not touching the line in this one, guys. I'm not touching it. Opened at 4. South Carolina now a 6.5-point favorite, but I love the total. If you got it at 44, hey, congratulations. Because even at over 50, I like it here. I think South Carolina and Spencer Rattler should be able to have a field day against a really, really suspect Mississippi State secondary. I do think Will Rogers and State will have a bounce-back game. I think he'll be able to get going a little bit against this Gamecocks defense, if you will, because something's got to give, right? State been terrible offensively. South Carolina been terrible defensively. I think Will Rogers, one of the best quarterbacks, I think, in the SEC still. I think he'll be able to find some things. I'm not giving away a prediction right now, but I think it goes over 50. I think 50, guys, is so low. I might even just be picking 50 from an entertainment standpoint. I don't want to watch a game under 50, guys. I really don't. I don't want to watch a game under 50 between the Gamecocks and Bulldogs, but I do think there's going to be some offensive fireworks. I do. I think there's going to be points in this football game. I like the over 50 between the Gamecocks and the Bulldogs. Florida State going on the road to Clemson. They are now, guys, get this, just a 1.5-point favorite in this game. I understand that Florida State looked abysmal against Boston College and almost let Boston College come back and win that football game. But, guys, FSU sleepwalking through a game in BC does not change the fact they're still one of the best teams in college football. I think Clemson's going to give Florida State an inspiring effort, a great game. I don't think this will be the blowout maybe some were thinking, a week or so ago, but I just see no way Florida State's losing this football game. I think FSU covers. I think they win. I think they win by a touchdown or more. I don't trust Clemson right now. Just because you beat up on FAU and what have you, I'm going with the Noles in this one. I got FSU covering. I think FSU covers the 1.5 with ease. We go to a game off the radar, guys. Georgia Southern and Ball State. Georgia Southern with a really inspiring effort at Wisconsin at Camp Randall. I like Georgia Southern to build off that and bounce back here and get a big win over Ball State. They're -6.5 against Ball State. I like the Georgia Southern Eagles. Gata, -6.5. Gata, -6.5. I love Georgia Southern covering that game. And finally, guys, sticking with Georgia teams. We go to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. +4 against Wake Forest. What has Wake Forest shown that tells us that, and Georgia Tech, I think, too, showed some really, really encouraging signs against Ole Miss. I love Haynes King at quarterback. I like Tech to win this thing straight up. I really do. I like Georgia Tech straight up. I like Georgia Tech +4. Easily take the points. You won't need them because Georgia Tech is going to win this thing over Wake Forest straight up. So again, guys, my plays for this weekend, and we've got to have a good weekend. NC State -9, Auburn A&M over 53.5, Bama -7, Arkansas +17.5, USC and Mississippi State over 50, FSU -1.5, Georgia Southern -6.5, and Georgia Tech +4. Guys, that being said, let's jump into another break. On the other side, we'll get our good friend J.C. Shurburtt of the Big Spur on today's show. We'll talk Gamecocks, SEC, and everything in between, all that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
That's your Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Of course, it is 1:17 p.m. Y'all continue to flood the chat line. Of course, leave us your questions, leave us your comments, leave us voicemails if you'd like. We'll take all those at the start of the Q&A Power Hour. Again, appreciate all of you for being interactive in the show. And, of course, guys, like I mentioned, it is Tuesday. He joins us every single Tuesday to break down the weekend that was and look ahead of the upcoming weekend and discuss anything and everything in between. Our good friend JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur of Inside the Gamecocks once again joins the show. JC, appreciate you taking the time, my friend. What's going on?
Yeah, good to be with you guys today. It's a Tuesday. It's a busy Tuesday. About to head down to the coast of South Carolina. I've got a Carolina Rise event in Georgetown tonight, Charleston tomorrow night. So will be good to be amongst the people. One thing I was really jealous of you about kind of before I got into the collective part of it, Chris, when we were doing media stuff, I was in Chicago most of the time. I'd see you going out to Carolina Ale House and hanging out with all the great Gamecocks. And it's an honor to get to do that now, kind of, living in both places at the same time. It's great to be around, I guess, our people again.
Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. I mean, I'm glad you guys are able to do that. I'm sure the event will go well. JC, again, I appreciate you as always taking the time, man. And obviously, again, glad you're back in the great state of South Carolina. We're going to dive into the Georgia game, talk Mississippi State, all that good stuff. But I want to start on a little bit of a different note because I've noticed, and I don't know if you have as well, an uptick over the last 24, 48 hours of conversation regarding Gamecocks defensive coordinator Clayton White. What do you make of that? Because a lot of folks are throwing up statistics right now of where the defense sits and the rankings, and they're all, as you'd expect, or you probably already know, near the bottom. And I know you and I talked over the summer. This was a big year for Clayton White. But, I mean, where do you sit right now in regards to the Gamecocks defensive coordinator? And, what do you make of the chatter on social media? Do you think it's fair, unfair, expected? What do you make of all that?
I think it's fair, depending on what the exact terminology is. I mean, I don't know. You're past the point of no return where, all right, there needs to be a change made. But honestly, I mean, year three, I think turnovers have masked a lot with this defense the last 2 years. And you start looking at individual players and, several have gotten better, but what's the situation up front? Why in the second half last week, after things are going so well in the first half, did things change? Why in some games does it take until the halftime to make adjustments? All those are fair questions. And, you see something in one or two games, Chris, and you go out there and bloviate about it on Twitter or whatever, and you're a fan. Yeah, I'm probably not going to agree with that. But how many games has it been? Shane Beamer's coached 29 games here. Clayton White's been his D coordinator for every single one. And there's certain things that have happened. And so I think it's fair. I thought, though, that said, the defense played its best game out of all three of them this year on Saturday. I mean, a complete game. I mean, Georgia's got a lot of good players on offense. I thought they played tough. I thought, they found some answers and TJ Sanders and some things like that. But as far as the chatter goes, I don't, I'm one of these people, I'll give everybody a chance. I'll give all coaches a chance. And sometimes those, there's only been one situation where I think midway through a guy's first year, I was like, no, he needs to go. And that was recent. That was in 2021. But, I think once you get to year three of a tenure and the same things continue to happen over and over again, and you have the same concerns, the criticism is fair. This is big boy football. It's the SEC. Mike Bobo just called his third game back at Georgia as the OC, and they're ready to run him out of town. There's much more extreme examples than a fan base waiting until year three games in to say, hey, some of these things aren't better than they were and they should be. And I think maybe a lot of it too has come because the defense was so bad at the end of the Muschamp era, and it did improve to 2021. There's been some individual success stories like Foster the first year, and then Emmett Warray coming in last year as a true freshman in the secondary, and things of that nature. But the Achilles heel, so to speak, I mean that hasn't really changed. Carolina played better against the run for a half Saturday, but still it wasn't where it needed to be. And quite frankly, in the second half, Mike Bobo out-schemed Clayton White. Whereas in the first half, I thought Clayton got the better of Bobo, which is different. But, so we'll see. But I think that's fine. I mean, I think, and I'll be the first person to defend a coach. If people are all over Howell Loggins, and that doesn't make any sense to me. But, a coordinator that's been here, and you keep saying over and over, well, they need to take that step. Well, they got to take that step. I mean, I think we did all summer, man. Got to stop the run better, and they haven't necessarily done that so far. So they got to show marked improvement defense wise. I think for maybe that criticism to go away.
Now, JC, looking back at the Georgia game, a tale of two halves. Obviously, South Carolina jumps all over the Dogs and jumps out to a 14-3 lead at halftime. I think all of us, I know my mind was running wild with the thoughts of South Carolina pulling off this great upset and what it would mean for Shane Beamer's program, what have you, but also knowing that the Gamecocks had to go toe-to-toe with the number one team in the country, back-to-back national champions for the entire second half, and Georgia came out and did exactly what you thought a heavyweight fighter like them would do. I mean, they punched you right in the face, and then they punched again. They were waiting to see if you would respond, and that response unfortunately never came. But a game in which, JC, I think you can take a lot of positives from, but also very frustrating, right, especially with the fan base when you feel like victory was right there in your grasp and you let it slip away. So all in all, when the dust settles, now that we've had some time to think, JC, like, what are your main takeaways offensively, defensively, some of the positives you saw, things you can build on? And are there still some things that linger that maybe frustrate you? For example, JC, I thought maybe the second half game plan, like you mentioned, I wasn't sure. It didn't feel like South Carolina exhausted every option, every opportunity. Like, it felt like the Gamecocks stopped playing like big underdogs, and it was like you still are that big underdog. Like, you know what I'm saying? So some people thinking maybe they left some things out there on the field. You're just overall thoughts on the day that was in Athens, because when you look at the final score, you would say, okay, 10-point loss, that's encouraging, but a lot more frustration than you'd expect because you had such a great opportunity to pull off that upset. Well,
I'll tell you what, I think I kind of look back the last 20 years, 23 years, because I'm of the opinion a new era of Carolina football started in 2000, really. That's kind of the year that, Holtz turned it around. And ever since that point, the Steelers have been increasingly rising, right? From where they used to be, where, boy, there may have been 10,000 people at the airport or the bus stop when the team got home for playing the number one team in the country within 10 points at some point. Now people are pissed off. Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. Expectations are good. And so I think, number one, my house standards have changed, and that's good. I think that's a positive. I think, number two, it's good that people are upset within the program because they lost the game and not just sitting there going, oh, well, we played them close. Good for us. Pat us on the back. Because they lost because of mistakes. They made critical errors at critical times. There were 4 moments in the game, each one of them critical error. The hold on the kickoff return, along with the Georgia kid making a great play. The Georgia kid making a great play on X is recruiting. The hold is mental, okay? The drop by Trey Knox, that can't happen if you're upset a top-ranked team. Rattler taking a sack when they're in field goal range to tie the game and quiet the crowd. It can happen. And then really the fourth one that I picked up on, because, Chris, it was still a 10-point game. You score a touchdown, you kick an onside kick, who knows what can happen there. Mitch Jeter's a good enough kicker to get you back in it. Josh Simon catches a 22-yard catch and run down to or 19, something like that, down to the Georgia 22-yard line. I mean, even you can even kick a field goal and then be down a touchdown. They kick an onside kick, right? And it was a holding penalty on Ja'Kai Moore. And so that prevented that. I don't want to say that South Carolina lost, because I think Georgia played really, really well in the second half and won the game. But that's what prevented South Carolina from maybe taking it down to the wire and being in position to perhaps pull the upset at the end. Because by the end, 10-point game, that was it. So that's why people are mad. I do think there were some answers that were found on both lines of scrimmage for two individuals that won awards this week, and rightfully so. TJ Sanders, defensive tackle. I think sometimes players, if you see them in a game and you've kind of been waiting on them to break out, Chris, and they have that breakthrough moment, I think that that sometimes facilitates comfort and confidence the next time out. And then you kind of see him go. Well, if you think back to last week, TJ Sanders finally, the first guys that got a sack all year. I think he may have the first sack all year for Carolina against Furman. And then you saw what he did. Omega Blake on the other side, by the way, a receiver, that first touchdown against Furman, and then you saw him in for Juice. But back to Sanders, he's a guy that we've been waiting to break out for a long time. There's an answer at D tackle. Now, I don't know how you split it up with Boogie and Huntley and Elijah Davis and him. My guess is you should probably consider sliding, either staying in the three-man front or sliding Tonka back out. But we'll see how TJ Sanders has to be on the field now. I mean, that dude, I haven't seen a D tackle play that individually since probably Javon Kinlaw against Georgia 4 years ago at South Carolina. And then on the offensive side, man, what can you say about Big Tree Babalade? I'm going to enjoy saying his name too, Big Tree Babalade. That's just a pimp name. It just rolls off your tongue, Babalade. But the kid gets in there and starts left tackle. And keep in mind, Chris, as a recruit, this guy was highly touted, but he wasn't a top 50 guy or anything. He was just like a top 300 guy. Some people had him as a high 3-star. Most people thought he was a guard. He gets in there at left tackle in the SEC against the number one team in the country as a freshman. Against the defense that, by the way, it really stresses the tackles, because they do have those looping pressures that they do, delayed passes and things. And guy didn't give up a sack and blocked well. It looked like he belonged, right? So those are two answers. So I think that's what I took away from it. And I also thought I don't want to sit here and say, oh, Georgia's not very good because of what they did against Carolina, because Carolina had something to do with it. But I'll say this. Watching Georgia going back, watching their first two games against the Cupcakes, watching them against Carolina, they remind me a lot more of Mark Richt's Georgia right now than Kirby Smart's. So maybe it's because it's Bobo's offense again. It's kind of back to the future formationally and stuff. With one exception, I think that they're doggone talented at receiver. And we probably didn't see a whole lot of that against South Carolina. And I also think South Carolina's secondary played really well. But, we'll see what happens. But I took that away on Georgia. These guys don't look quite as dominant as the last 2 years' teams, but they are extremly, extremely talented. I mean, those Michael Williams, Kamario Lassiter, my God, those Malachi Starks. I mean, those are ballers. So.
JC, the running back position, the running back room as a whole has been one that's been a talking point this week. When you've had the issues up front that you've had, it makes it really, really tough to generate any sort of running game. That was the case on Saturday. And, of course, give credit to Georgia's defense. They're fantastic. But this has been an issue all year. What's your take on the running back room? Should there be a change at RB1? I think there's been some some unfair criticism thrown DeCabrion Joyner's way, lumping it all on him, if you will. But to be fair, from what we've seen thus far, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, JC, but it feels as if DK is a guy that when he meets contact, he goes down rather quickly. And a guy like, let's say, Mario Anderson, who has been a big-time RB1 before, he meets contact. He seems like he's able to get that extra 2 or 3 yards. I mean, do you think there should be some shuffling in the running back room? Or I'll ask you this simply point blank. What has to change for South Carolina to get some sort of rushing attack going? Because they're obviously going to throw the football this year and throw it a lot with Spencer Rattler, but you got to find some balance at some point.
Yeah, I think South Carolina, it's kind of they have sort of the same situation Georgia did last year, but they're not dealing with like 4 uber talented guys. They're dealing with 4 guys that, kind of have specialties and do what they do. And I think it's up to Dowell Loggins. Probably not even, I don't know that it's something the running backs coach will or wants to do or can do or whatever. We'll see, but I don't know whose decision this ultimately is to kind of figure this out, because you can rotate 4 and get away with it and actually be quite good at it. Georgia's done it, Alabama. A lot of other schools that are pretty good teams have done it. But what you can't do is you have to be kind of subtle enough and nuanced enough to where, you're not tipping your plays. In other words, 5's in, that means it's going to be a pass. Oh, this guy's in, run. Oh, this guy's outside, run. You got to kind of figure the way out. But I would play all 4. And here's what I do. Between the 20s, Mario Anderson would be my guy. I think that's a guy that if you're talking about who can be the back, carry 17 times for 90 yards or whatever, be your running game from the running back position, I think it's him. And I think that, no matter what happened in practice or whatever in the games, the few times he's been able to run, I mean, beautiful. He drug Georgia's whole team down the field the other day. He's compact. He's small to the ground. He's hard to tackle. He hits the hole hard. He's got quick feet. He'd probably be about a, second or third team back most places. But at South Carolina this year, I think he is RB1. Now, I say that. Does that mean he needs to be in the starting lineup and out there first? I don't care. You can start DK. I won't. I mean, because here's what DK brings to the table. DK can catch out of the backfield. He's been really solid with that. He can pass block really well. He's better than that. He's got quick feet. He's a team leader. And so inside the 20s or inside the 10 or the red zone, I don't necessarily mind DK coming in, because what he does do really well as a running back, ball carrier, whatever, is he sniffs the end zone pretty good. He can find the end zone, especially short yardage goal line. He gets it. There's a reason he's got leads the team in touchdowns right now, 3. And like I said, he does pass block well. He does catch the ball well. So, yeah, maybe like a rotation between the 20s or something. I would definitely try to Mario more carries if you're looking to run it and get down the field. And then I think this whole notion that Juju McDowell is somewhere on the running back chart after watching him 2 years and coming into this year, look, Juju is not a guy that you go RB1, RB2, RB3. He's like RBX, like that, like he's his own guy. I mean, he's a specialty gadget player, third down back, all-purpose guy, whatever you want to call Juju McDowell. Lining him up and asking him to go do the things at his size that you're asking your other backs to do is preposterous. It's preposterous. It's not his game. It never has been. It never will be. I'm not sure they are asking him to do that. I'm just saying that you can't like evaluate Juju like you do the other guys. And then with Braswell, there's really no excuse why you can't. He hasn't. Let me back up. There will be no excuse. Be no excuse. I'm going to foreshadow it. Why he can't play? You can't get him ready to play this year, starting this week. Whereas when there is a hole and DK hits it and he gets tracked down from behind for 7, 8, 9 yards, Braswell's they're not catching him. So get him ready. because you got to keep trying different things in the run game to go on. I think they will. I think Chris in a couple of weeks will be sitting there talking about, yeah, remember that time we were all worried about the run game, So that's just kind of the way college football seems to be working out this season.
JC, I'm going to ask a question to you that I've been asked about 1,000 times since Saturday and all throughout this season. What is the latest on Nicholas Harbor? When do you think realistically we could see him start to make an impact? Because fans are just clamoring for him, and I think those of us who know understand the reasons why he's not out there, because he is a true freshman who is still learning the ropes. Who, it's not like he came in as a polished wide receiver, but fans don't want to hear that, right? All they can see is 6'5", 242, runs a 10-3, 100-yard dash, whatever all the measurables are. And, they see Luke Doty, a ball just go over his outstretched arms and think to themselves, I wonder if Nick Harbor would have caught that. So what's your thoughts on him, his development? When do you think fans are going to get what they want to see at some point soon where they'll start to see him out there making an impact?
I think so. Look, I was surprised he played 9 snaps. I was encouraged by that he played 9 snaps. I didn't expect him to play at all. So that means he's made some noise in practice. There's a couple of things. First and foremost, people need to quit getting mad about Luke Doty being out there. Luke Doty's played really well. Yes, he started above Eddie Lewis. Eddie Lewis, though, played 35 snaps to Luke's 20. Luke's called everything that's been thrown his way. I know he didn't quite get to 1 or 2, but look, people need to back off Luke Doty. And then number 2, Nick is an outside guy. Luke's a slot. Nick's not going to come in Luke Doty, regardless. If that's your dream, it's not going to happen even if Nick plays. Number 3, look, Nick Harbor did not enroll for spring ball early. He wasn't there for summer 1. He didn't get there until summer 2, so he's had one less of a summer session than a lot of these guys have had. And then during fall camp, he got hurt, Chris, and he was on the sidelines for like 2-3 weeks. Didn't really get back until the UNC and then Furman. Played against Furman, called a touchdown, whatever, and they got 9 snaps against Georgia, which I thought was good. This whole notion that the coaches need to design a slant. I kept saying, well, just throw him a slant and see what happens. Well, what if, he's got these big gangly arms. What if he sticks it up there? It doesn't stick. The ball goes off his hands. It maybe hits him in the helmet. You don't think that bunch is going to pick it and return it for a touchdown at Georgia? I mean, you go over the middle against those guys is a losing proposition. And with a 6'5" freshman that doesn't know where to go, he get cut in half. I mean, you gotta kind of use it. Somebody asked about an end around or something. Well, okay, fine, but he's still 6'5" and a big target for a big hit. So you want to make sure he holds on to the ball and all that stuff. So he'll get to play more and more as the year goes on, and I think he'll be another good playmaker. But this notion that the coaches somehow are making mistakes by not playing the guy, that's kind of void of reality. And maybe I'd feel a little different too if he hadn't missed all that practice time, if he'd enrolled in the spring and that spring practice like everybody else, if he'd had summer 1. But you think about the amount of time like a Tyshawn or a Lenore Sellers or Pup Howard has been here at Carolina. That dwarfs the amount of time Nick Hart's been at South Carolina, actively developing for the sport of college football. So 9 snaps, if you're a Nick Harbor fan, you want to know more, you should be jumping for joy over 9 snaps because that means he's doing something right and they're trying to work him in.
Now, JC, we look ahead to this weekend. South Carolina returns home to the friendly confines for the SEC home opener against the Mississippi State Bulldogs, a team right now, JC, in transition. Obviously, RIP, the late, great Pirate, and right now, Zach Arnett, I think, doing the best he can, but it's a brand-new offense with Kevin Barbay. We saw them last week against LSU really, really struggle. And, I mean, Will Rogers' numbers, right? I mean, he's trying to grasp this brand-new offense, a guy that before this year had never, run out of under center, had never turned his back to a defense, right, run any sort of play action, had been in this air raid system his entire life. And, we're seeing the numbers reflect that the transition, Mississippi State near the bottom in all the offensive categories statistically, South Carolina near the bottom in all the defensive categories statistically when it comes to the SEC rank. So something's got to give on Saturday. The way Spencer Rattler's playing obviously factors in this game. We now know, by the way, JC, this coming from Shane Beamer's presser that is happening right now, Juice Wells is indeed out this week. We know 100% he is out, saw a specialist. It isn't a season-ending injury, but Juice Wells is going to be out for this football game. So first off, your thoughts on Mississippi State, because I think a team that's a veteran-laden team, and when you have a quarterback like Will Rogers, you have a chance. They've got some experience in the trenches, what have you, but South Carolina, JC, favored in this football game. You're in a similar spot to last year, right? You come home, a 1-2 record. This is a game, I think must win gets thrown around way too much, but this is a pivotal game for the prospects of South Carolina's 2023 season. Your overall outlook on the SEC home opener and what you're expecting to take place Saturday night at Williams-Brice.
Well, it's sort of like this, Chris. Like South Carolina's strengths are kind of Mississippi's weaknesses, Mississippi State's weaknesses. You look at their past defense, it's just been getting lit up most of the year. Arizona threw 4 picks, but still had 300-something yards through the air and ended up tying the game, sending it in overtime. And then LSU, Neighbors and Daniels and that bunch just annihilated them down in Starkville. On the other side of the ball, I think that their strength obviously is running it. I don't know. I mean, I've seen this at schools before, man. I mean, I go back to Florida and Rex Grossman. Ron Zook comes in. Grossman's coming back. He comes back and plays. And then it's a completely different offense, different than what they did. They want to do something different, and he struggled. Anthony Wright at South Carolina struggled mightily when they tried to move him from the fast break offense to this whatever the heck Chuck Reedy was trying to run. Terrible. It was one of the worst coaching decisions ever was to bring him in, and that happened here. You've seen situations where guys get accustomed to a system, and then they're asked to do another system later on, and they just can't adjust. And then things are not good all of a sudden. I'll throw another one out there. I think Larry Smith with Vanderbilt. Van won 9 games 2 years in a row. And James Franklin goes to Penn State. Here comes Derek Mason with a bunch of guys back, tries to reinvent the wheel, and they end up going 0-8 in the SEC. That's kind of – I've always liked Zach Arnett as a D coordinator, but I was a little uncomfortable, when he went and changed the offense like that. I was like, well, you spent 3 years recruiting to this, and now you're going to change it. Will Rogers, to me, has always been the perfect college quarterback. Absolutely amazing. Remember, he was a true freshman, and he steps in, and all of a sudden their offense starts going again back there in 2020. You're asking them to do things that are unnecessary. I don't like that. And then you got Mike Wright, the backup that's they gave Carolina so much trouble that runs the ball a little bit. That's intriguing. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him quite a bit Friday. So Mississippi State's kind of an interesting thing. Here's what you worry about if you're Carolina. Number one, if I'm Shane Beamer and I win the toss, I'm taking the football. And here's why. What you want to avoid is Mississippi State lining up with Joquavius Marks, their running back, and then their other back, running a little dink and dunk play action, getting 5-6 yards of carry, going on a 10-play, 75-yard drive and melting half the quarter away, and then you're down 7-0 with half the quarter gone and the crowd's out of it and everything else. That's not going to be a good start. Whereas I think if you put the ball in Spencer's hands, you can probably get down there, get him fired up real quick with as iffy as Mississippi State is defensively. So fascinating game. I don't think South Carolina is going to blow them out. I think South Carolina should win and will win unless they have a ton of mistakes again. The weather could be a factor, maybe not. But I think this is one that sets up, at home, at night. I think as long as the Gamecocks get off to a good start, this one sets up pretty well for
Admittedly, JC, this one feels like to me a game that gets kind of weird. I could see Beamer ball finally showing itself, like special teams. I think this, and before we close, JC, I'll close out with this and see if you agree. I just this game to me is so important for South Carolina and Beamer's program, and because we've seen the Gamecocks in this spot before, JC, and we've seen them fall flat on their face. And I'm not trying to pull skeletons out of the closet or speak any negativity out there. But like, I just really want to see, right? What's the thing that's plagued this program over the last couple of years? It's consistency. And so, like, I just want to see a football team that, okay, you went toe-to-toe with Georgia, disappointing loss, no moral victories, but you did some positive things. Are you able to 7 days later build off of those positive things and not have one of those, and you know what I'm talking about, JC, one of those just maddening, mind-numbing losses where it's like you just reverted back to all the bad stuff you were doing. You know what I mean? So, like, that's what I want to see more than anything, right? I just – and admittedly, I don't know if it's my PTSD or what, but, like, I am nervous going into this football game. Everybody expects Carolina to win. They should win, but it's like, go actually do it. You know what I mean? So –
yeah, it's kind of like one of those it'll go one of two ways. It'll either go kind of like Missouri in 2019. I mean, but that game was out there. Come to find out, you know, there was a lot going on or whatever and all that. That's because that was kind of the alarm bell for that season. Because that dropped the Gamecocks to 1-3, and you're sitting there wondering how you're going to get to 6. You know, it also – you know, it's time to win. I mean, you know, it's not, the Georgia game, Carolina did some great things. They got better. They, you know, they played Georgia tough. They, you know, found some answers some places. But, man, they didn't win the game. So you're 1-2. You got to go win the game. I mean, you know, this team needs a win. This program needs a win by any means necessary. So I think that's the thing to look for when you're talking about the you know, kind of the weirdness and letdown and all that is, you know, these guys need to remember, the players and everybody involved, that you have not won. You know, so therefore, you know, you need to get out there and make sure you get it done. And there should be no reason for a late. This team should be playing like their hair's on fire because they want to have that first SEC victory that bad.
JC, one final thing, and I appreciate you being gracious with your time. When you look at the madness in the SEC, the craziness, the uncertainty, I mean, how does it change maybe your perception of the rest of South Carolina's schedule, the quote-unquote gauntlet, if you will? Because I think there's some games – it's interesting, right? And this happens, I guess, on a weekly basis. But there's some games now that maybe are looking a little bit more winnable than they once were, and you know, maybe there's some games that look a little bit tougher but does it change your perception at all? And can you remember a season we had this level of craziness, not just in the SEC, but college football as well?
Yeah, it's one of those things when you look at it, it's I think it presents opportunity, Chris, if you're a person like South Carolina, because, you know, there's not that hard ceiling, you know what I'm saying, with a lot of these teams. And, you know, you kind of look and, well, you know, A&M has flaws. You know, Tennessee's got flaws, obviously. Yeah, Vanderbilt was not man enough to go into Allegiant Stadium and beat the running Rebels of UNLV. So they're not that good. You know, and then Alabama, Ole Miss, all those teams that the Gamecocks don't play, obviously have been up and down. So I think whenever the league is like this, it presents an opportunity for your South Carolinas of the world, simply because, you know, whatever team decides they want it and jumps up and grabs it and takes it, that's who's going to get it this year when all is said and done, because there's not really a dominant team.
Indeed. JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur of Inside the Gamecocks joins us every single Tuesday. JC, great stuff as always, my friend, and look forward to talking with you guys on Thursday. All
right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate all you folks out there watching. See you.
Appreciate you, JC. Take care. Great stuff from JC Shurburtt, guys. Always a pleasure to chat with him and discuss all things Gamecocks, and looking forward to a great weekend this week. And that being said, guys, the Q&A Power Hour just around the corner. I want to hear from you, taking all of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge, where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
Guys are back here on this Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I want to say thank you to JC Shurburtt for taking the time to chat as he does each and every single Tuesday. Really, really good stuff as always. Anyways, guys, that being said, we are taking your questions, comments, calls. It is our Q&A Power Hour here on this Tuesday. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. The phone lines are open as we sit here on Mississippi State Week. Mississippi State Week. Gamecocks looking for their first SEC win of the 2023 season. That being said, let's get into some of your questions here in the YouTube chat. Obviously, a very, very busy day in the YouTube chat. Chris Miller has locked in a prediction, 35-28. He's got the Gamecocks taking down MSU. Let's see. John Gibbs says Gamecocks 34, Mississippi State 21. Yeah, if y'all have predictions, go ahead and fire away. We'll go ahead and take those. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Bree.
Bree, what's going on? How are you?
I'm all right, Chris. I'm calling in, obviously, in response to, you put out a video about, where are we with Clayton White? And obviously, I think everybody knows, at least on this show, that I was very outspoken about, Clayton's defense last year. So that's what I was calling in to talk about. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, Bree. I appreciate you calling in. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about Clayton White, who seems to be a really, really hot topic over the last 24, 48 hours or so.
Yeah, so obviously last year, I spoke about Clayton White, a lot. And, I never was like, hey, we need to fire Clayton White. I'm not on that. I'm not on that now either. I just thought that Clayton needed, people needed to be looking at defensive things. We were very focused on Satterfield last year. We were very focused on offensive woes. And I called in a lot of times and go, guys, nobody's talking about, some of these defensive miscues and schemes. And that was a lot of what I noticed last year, spending time breaking down the plays and looking at things. For me, it was less about miscues and more about schemes. I felt like Clayton came over from Western Kentucky in a different league and just wasn't really prepped for what he was going to have to deal with in the SEC. I talked about spies a lot last year. Dude's got to start spying. We deal with a lot of mobile quarterbacks. Well, going into Tennessee, we actually saw that last year. That was a big difference for me as to what made a big difference in the Tennessee game. Obviously, our offense exploded that game, and we weren't any of us expecting that. But what nobody really talked about was we also held Tennessee to, 32? 31, 32 points, I believe, and this was a team that was scoring 60, 70 on like everybody. So, nobody really talked about the difference in the defense in that game because we were all so amazed in the offense. And then we went to Clemson and, we only gave up 30 to Clemson, 31, I think, something like that. It was 30. What was the score?
31 to 30, yeah.
32, 31.
31 to 30.
31 to 30. So we held two really good teams to 30 points. I know that we look at the second half of the UGA game and go, damn, we didn't do anything defensively. Now I go back to the offense there. The defense was left on the field a lot. The schemes is what I was looking at. I don't feel like we did a great job against UNC, but I do feel like the schemes for Clayton White have actually changed a lot. I've noticed it like last year, and like I said, all the way going into Tennessee, he spent a lot of time. It was a lot of man. He was relying heavily on his DBs being very athletic and shutting down pass offense. But we were giving up a lot of run yards, So anytime we were down, these guys were just eating up clock and keeping our offense off the field anyway. So we were not doing it, and we still obviously do a horrible job getting off the field on third down. That's something we have to really address, is getting off the field on third down. But for me, his schemes have changed a lot. He has started mixing it up. He's using a lot more zone packages. He's adding spies and seeing delayed blitzes versus just straight, man on man, put 5 in coverage, man on man, and send 6, send the house and leave our guys one-on-one in coverage as much. And we're starting to see more zones. We're starting to see spies. We're starting to see a difference in the scheme. Clayton has done a great job recruiting. I mean, the defensive recruits are really standing out. So we do probably need to give the guy a little time to adjust to the SEC. If he wasn't starting to make changes, you would be hearing a whole different tune from me. Because last year I was all over that. Right? I was like, dude, Clayton is not calling games very well. He's taking too long to make adjustments. I do think that obviously in the second half of UGA, they came out, they made their adjustment, and our whole coaching staff was not prepared to make their own adjustments. They took, they did not readjust to the adjustments that UGA came out with, but that wasn't just Clayton. That was offensively as well. I almost felt like they came out in the second half trying not to lose versus trying to win, if that makes any sense. It's like, hey, we're up, we're beating them. All we got to do is keep doing what we're doing. And it was like they didn't come out of the locker room with the mentality of, hey, we really got to start stuffing more points on the board. We also have to be prepared. They're going to make some changes. I mean, you have to know that UGA is going to go into the locker room at halftime, make adjustments, and it's not going to be the same stuff coming out. And you have to be, as a coach, mentally ready going, all right, what are these adjustments going to be? Mm-hmm. That is the one thing I really am still critiquing on Clayton White right now is sometimes it's taking him too long to figure out what's going on in the game. Other games like UNC, we didn't start really slowing them down until the third quarter. I know other people were like, well, it's because they slowed down. They were already in the lead. The game was close enough. UNC was not slowing down and hoping that they were just going to hold out, and win that game, on a two-score game that early, in the second half. By the fourth quarter, sure, maybe they were making a change and going, hey, we just need to play the clock. But, in the third quarter, we still weren't really making adjustments. The adjustments defensive adjustments didn't start slowing them down until kind of late in the third quarter, and it's just I see just too much time making these adjustments. Now, on the other side of that, I've been worried about his, just not having a strategy coming into the game that's been working in the first half. That was not what we saw at UGA. I mean, they shut them down well. I know a lot of people were going, well, UGA was just off or they weren't playing well. I felt like defensively we did a great job in the first half. And, I felt like he had a great jab. But when it got to the second the second half, there was no cross. There was no 1-2 follow-up. It was like, hey, I got this jab. It's working. I'm going to keep working on my jab. And then second half comes in. There's no 2-punch. It's like, hey, they adjusted. What are you going to do to adjust now? I feel like maybe it's an experience thing, Chris. Maybe it's like I said, the game is much faster at the SEC level. Clayton White is certainly an experienced defensive coordinator. He knows what he's doing as far as being a coordinator. He's definitely getting us high-level recruits. But maybe it's just going to be an experience thing. Maybe it really is. We're just going to have to give the guy a little bit more time. Now, if we're not seeing more by the end of this year, more adjustments, faster adjustments in game time, it's one thing to have a strategy. It's another to be able to it's like, well, obviously, I'm in the fight game. Mike Tyson was, everybody has a plan until you get hit, right? Well, when you get hit, how are you adjusting to that? And that's going to be the real question going forward. Because on the recruiting front, the guys are coming in. We're definitely seeing high-level recruits again. And so I think that on that side of things, we have a good future under Clayton White if he can continue to alter his game, if he can continue to change up his schemes, and if he figures out how to adjust mid-game better. I think that's what we're looking at. So as much as I have been a critic of Clayton White's defenses, I've actually seen a lot of improvement through the last portion of last year. And even in even in this season, even in the loss to UNC, I saw a lot of improvement in his schemes and stuff. They just weren't paying off. I definitely I've seen a willingness to change up what he's been doing, if that makes any sense.
No, Bree, I think that's well said. And I will say, I think that, the Clayton White chatter is interesting because it never really occurred to me, even after Saturday's game, that, Clayton White should be on the hot seat or what have you. And I definitely felt coming in, this was a really big year for Clayton White in regards to the defense slowing down the run. And obviously you've got a brand new defensive line coach in Travian Robertson. So I am not, I want to make it very clear. I'm not passionate in the sense of South Carolina needs to make a move on their D coordinator, how it was so obvious, right, with Satterfield and the issues with the scheme and what have you. But, women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie. Though if South Carolina's down at the bottom of the SEC standings yet again in regards to these statistics go, I think you just have to take a long, hard look at what you're doing defensively. So, I think there were some encouraging signs against Georgia. And like you mentioned, I think Clayton White has made the adjustments. I mean, normally, I think that's what really surprised me. Normally, they've been really good coming out of the half at making those halftime adjustments. And, Georgia just kind of schooled you in that second half. So I'm curious to see what the defense looks like as we continue to move forward. But, because I don't have any ill will or some sort of vitriol towards Clayton White. I mean, I think he's done a fine job as DC, but you kind of start to question when you look at those numbers and you continue to see those numbers go from one-offs to trends. You'd like to start to see some positive progress. So obviously I think throughout this season, that's what you're looking for.
I agree. And as you just said, throughout this season, we are in year 3, we are at a point where recruits have come in. I certainly wouldn't want to get to the end of year 3, and he still did a decent job. And we have a whole lot of new recruits coming in. And everybody's still going, hey, fire him before year 4. We need a new defensive coordinator before year 4. I'm still at this point willing to say, hey, it's going to be year 4 before we really, really see, all his new recruits on the field, all these new recruits that have, that have game time experience and experience in the system. I think year 4 for Clayton White is definitely a factor, but the fact that eyes are on him now this year, I think is not a bad thing. I think that, like I said last year, I was worried about scheme. The fact that we weren't always doing the best or whatever against a lot of these powerhouse offenses or, mobile quarterbacks and things, that worried me as far as I didn't feel like adjustments were coming. I do see adjustments. I do see adjustments in the scheme. And as long as we get through this year and we're still seeing adjustments, we're still seeing, improvement from his play calling, improvement from the kids on the field themselves, I'm definitely not on the, hey, we're going to fire Clayton White at the end of year 3 if we go 6-6, or whatever. If this isn't a great season for us, however it pans out, I'm not on the, hey, we're going to fire Clayton White. In all honesty, I mean, the second half, the rain, everything going on in that game, but the O-line just went to straight, hell, in the second half. First half, we had good protection, or good enough protection for Spencer to make plays. Second half, man, it was just like whatever adjustments the defense made, our O-line and our O-line coaches or whoever is responsible for whatever was going on there with the O-line it was like 2 different stories, right? And now you got a defense that's stuck out on the field, drive after drive. The offense is going 3 and out a lot of times, and they're not staying on the field. Now you got a worn down defense with a small roster. Let's be clear, we're still not deep in that roster. We're not deep as Georgia is in their roster. So I give some leeway there. I still give some leeway to what we saw defensively in the second half because it's just like, it's raining. They're starting to push on us with the big offensive linemen. We don't have depth there. Yes, they're gutting us in the run game, but they weren't really doing it in the first half. It was the second half that they started doing it. They started really leaning on us with the run game. Yeah, we got to figure that out, and that can't happen. But I don't want to put that so much on Clayton White. But I do want to remind everybody, The reality is we're going, hey, we held them to only 24 points. They missed 2 very, very missable field goals.
Mhm.
I look at that as a 30-point game for them.
Mhm.
But 30 points. If I told you that we were going to come out and hold Georgia to 30 points in Athens, before the game, would everybody go, oh, yeah, that's so doable. Yeah, we're definitely going to hold them to 30 points. I think most people went into that game thinking, hey, if we don't have a high-octane offense like we did against Tennessee, there's no way we're going to win it. The reality is we actually held them to a score from our defense, or even if we give them the 2 field goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
We give them the 2 field goals and we say 30, we still held them to a score that was a winnable game for us. The offense really let us down this particular time. And, I don't blame Clayton White so much on that UGA loss. Yeah. As long as he is improving, as long as he's doing the things I've already said, I'm still okay with Clayton White being there and continuing to try and improve not just our players, but also his own play calling. It's going to take time. He's new to the SEC. Yeah. He's new to the SEC.
Yeah, and I think there's less pressure as well, or less attention on the defensive side of the football, just because of it's an offensive game and you're expected to score 40 points per game. I think it's more damning for a football program and a football team if you got a bad offense and a bad defense, because everybody's scoring, everybody's moving the football up and down the field. And so, I mean, whether that's fair, unfair, what have you, it's not the early 2000s where you got a bunch of 10-7 games and 13-10. I mean, if you're not scoring points anyways, that's the big problem. Bree, I appreciate the call. We're going to keep it moving again, guys. Let's continue the conversation. I'll say that. Let's see. Getting into your questions, because I know we have a lot of them. Coach Ford says, Mississippi State looks strong against the run, weak against the pass. Looked like a strong running team with nearly 6 yards per carry average, got a score, or watch them limit possessions. I do think that's probably going to be Mississippi State's game plan. They got Woody Marks in the backfield, Tulu Griffin at the wide receiver position, Will Rogers at quarterback. But I think they're going to lean on Woody Marks for sure. I think they're going to lean on Woody Marks. And Nicholas Weil says, we should have beaten North Carolina. Well, we should have not given up 9 sacks, Nicholas. I think that's, South Carolina has nobody to blame but themselves for that loss. So, John Gibbs, the good news is that the majority of our games left, we can win if we can put it together. Even with the injuries, we have a chance. In case you missed it, by the way, Juice Wells officially out for Saturday's game against Mississippi State. Shane Beamer making it officially official. This isn't my rumor. This isn't the C Philly injury report. This is Shane Beamer himself. This is Shane Beamer himself stating that Juice Wells is out due to a foot injury. He does not think it's season ending, but they will reevaluate. And, I think Shane Beamer is a guy that sees the absolute best in every single injury report. So will he be out for the entire season? We shall see. Hopefully not. But, if it's a broken foot for real, that's a pretty significant injury, I would say. Jesse Jacobs. Love DK and what he means to the program, but think Beamer is doing a huge disservice to the team by not playing Mario and DJ Braswell at running back. Coach Ford says, I think you're right. Keep it on the radar. LSU's a lot better than most thought after Florida State. Mississippi State did beat Arizona. We must score when we can because Mississippi State will want to run the ball and limit possessions. How about Coleman Hall? We're a really good group of 5 team. Elite skill position players, but the lines just aren't there. I hate to say that, but we don't have an SEC offensive line yet. So until then, or until we can run airway, we need to be realistic with ourselves. Coleman Hall says that South Carolina is a really, really good group of 5 team. My goodness. Let's see. Lady Bree, I do apologize. We just kept it moving. I wanted to get to some of these questions that we have here, so I do apologize. Nothing personal, but wanted to keep the conversation rolling. Let's see. Ethan K, again, high expectations this year for the big-time tight ends. So far, they have underperformed. What's the deal with them, and why can't they seem to get open? Ethan K, I'll say this. I heard a lot from Arkansas folks when the Gamecocks got Trey Knox about their gripes of him and that he had never really been a big-time guy and couldn't really block all that well on the line of scrimmage. I think Trey Knox has been what they said he would be. Also, Joshua Simon. I mean, the dude came in from Western Kentucky, Ethan K. People thought I was crazy when I graded the Gamecocks tight end room at a C+, right? How dare you? This room was an A. How dare – what's the funniest time of year? One of the funniest times of year is going through those position unit previews and giving those grades and watching people freak out. Watching people freak out at me because they think I have no clue what I'm talking about, or I'm a hater, I'm the worst, what have you. It's like, no, we just go through and look at the roster realistically. And, so I just think what you're getting is kind of what folks that didn't wear the garnet glasses expected out of these guys. Like Trey Knox needs to improve the blocking. He's got to catch the freaking football. And then Joshua Simon coming from Western Kentucky, man, he's a physical specimen, but welcome to the SEC where everyone is a physical specimen. Let's see. Anyways, we'll keep it moving here. Austin Gregory, hey, sneaky good bet. It's Nebraska not to cover. They're favored by 20. I'm not sure a Marcus Satterfield coached offense can produce 20 points. Good deal. Austin Gregory, Chris Phillips versus Clayton White's defense is not something I had on my bingo card for a coordinator who's given us a chance to win every week. It really do be your own people. I mean, again, Austin Gregory, I'm not passionately telling you that he should be fired, but I think if you finish 11th or worse in the SEC in rushing defense again, yeah, I think there should be some chatter. I don't think that's a hot take. Let's see. Ethan K., which assistant coach is on the hottest seat for us at this point? Montario Hardesty should have been fired yesterday. So I hope that answers your question. The information station, YSC went and got these type of tight ends. I mean, they're not bad players, information station. They're not bad players. That's not at all what I was saying. They're not bad players, but I just think folks had ideas of Trey Knox being like 1,000-yard receiver or close to it. And, I think you could have done much worse in the portal than grabbing a Trey Knox out of the portal from Arkansas, a guy proven at the SEC level to at least be a contributor. And then, a guy in Joshua Simon who had 7 touchdown catches for Western Kentucky last year. So let's see. We got a text here from Justin. Chris, who has the worst college football fans, Clemson or Georgia? I got Georgia. Georgia has the worst fans. I will go with, I think Clemson now. It used to be Georgia. I think Clemson now. Joyner needs to move to wide receiver. Joyner's not a running back. Many people seem to think that. Coach Ford, we've thrown like 5 balls at Knox in 3 games. Well, Coach Ford, he has to get open to get the football. He has to get open. Let's see. Again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Travi says, teams with line play and run game give us problems. If you can't see that, I question your football knowledge. Indeed, Travi. Coach Ford says, got to win 3 of the next 5. So 3 of the next 5, Coach Ford, would be Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida, Mizzou, and A&M, correct? 3 of the next 5. So you're thinking Mississippi State, Florida, and splitting Mizzou or A&M, I'd assume. It's probably what you're – just 3 – okay, 3 and 2 in the next 5. I don't even think you have to do that to get to 7 wins, but, to your point, it makes the path much easier. So I think you got to get to 3 and 3 or better through the first 6. That's what I've been saying forever, and I think I'm sticking with that. That's what you got to – that's the point you have to get to. So, guys, we're going to jump into a quick break on the other side. We'll keep the conversation rolling here in the Q&A Power Hour, taking your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars. And there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home. Call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie, Hello Dougie,
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, guys, as the Q&A Power Hour continues. Let me say this, was reading through the comments, guys. Let's make sure we're being respectful of each other in the comments. And I'm talking to you, John Edward. I don't know why. Look at this. Putting you on my block list, John Edward. Let's all be respectful. I don't know why, John Edward, why you lash out at folks like you do. I can't help you. I can't help you. But I just, hey, let's everybody love everybody. Let's all just get along. Why not, man? Why not everybody just get along? And I don't know. Maybe that's asking too much. Let's see. Okay, let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I am doing fantastic on this Tuesday. How's this Tuesday treating you?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I appreciate you asking. What's going on?
First off, I'm very happy today because my Steelers got their first win last night against the Browns. It was a doozy of a ball game, but that's not why I'm calling. Anywho, I think that obviously, like I've always said, one of the main keys to keeping a team from beating you is keeping their offense off the field. And that is going to be key for this week and for the weeks to come, because we are now officially in the meat and potatoes part of the schedule. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be conference games from here on out until we get to Jacksonville State. And in order for us to definitely have a chance at beating Mississippi State, we cannot let Will Rogers get on a roll. We have got to put pressure on him every chance that we get. I don't know if he's a good runner or not, but if he is a good runner, I would tell my defensive ends, your job is to make sure he does not leave the pocket. And if he does leave the pocket, we need to have a linebacker or somebody there to hit him real good, because from what I heard while watching the absolute domination that LSU put on Mississippi State this past week, they said that if Rogers gets knocked around a bit, he gets rattled really easy. So we have got to put pressure on him, because the number of times I saw Mississippi State run the ball, I could probably count on one hand, okay? So if we can somehow get Mississippi State into 3rd and 10s or 3rd and 9s or 3rd and 8s or what have you, and get our defense off the field, because the first 3 games of the year, our defense has had problems with getting off of the field on 3rd down, especially whenever it's 3rd and long. We have a tendency for some reason this year to give up 3rd and longs, and we cannot do that this week or the weeks to come, or this season could go absolutely haywire.
This is a big game for sure. It's a big game, man. It's one you got to have. I mean, again, if you're in year 3 against a first-year head coach, complete revamp of the offensive system and scheme and everything, and culture too. I think this is a huge game, Robbie. So, and I would agree, getting in the face of Will Rogers and forcing him to mistakes, and continuing, Spencer Rattler continuing what he's done. Would be a great place to start to getting the win. So, yes, this is a big one, man. It's one you got to have.
And Rattler, obviously, at some point, he's not going to be able to do it by himself. So we definitely need everybody on the offense to step up. And I'm not just talking about receivers and running backs. I mean everybody, offensive linemen, everybody, okay? Because it's about to get real quick, because we are now going to be having conference games every week for the next month or so. So we've got to just figure out something, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, figure out a way to make it better to where it does work.
Robbie, you always know what to say, my friend. You always know what to say, truly.
And I definitely think that Rattler is going to have a really good game, because from what I saw from Mississippi State's defense, okay, they could not stop a snow blizzard in Boston if they tried. Okay. LSU was doing whatever the heck they wanted to against Mississippi State's defense. So if we struggle, if our offensive line struggles this week, we are in some serious trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely do think that we're going to get the win this weekend. Just solely based on what I've seen from Spencer Rattler. He is not trying to really force it as much as he did last year.
So you are, Robbie, you are picking the win. That's what you just said, correct? You're going ahead and going on record on Tuesday.
I am picking us to win.
Okay.
And as always, I will have my prediction ready to go Thursday. I'll give you my prediction on Thursday. But a little bit of a spoiler, I do have us winning. I just don't have a score in my head quite yet.
Gotcha.
But and I think at some point this defense is going to start getting some turnovers. And if there's ever a time for you to start doing that, it's this week and the weeks to come, because it's just going to get even harder the longer, the deeper we get into the season.
Indeed. So, yeah, Robbie, I'm excited to hear what your actual score prediction is. Like what you got for a score on this game. I'm excited to hear it.
Well, I'll have it for you on Thursday, ready to go. So, and I would not be surprised, okay, about if this was to happen at the end of the year, regardless of how the season ends up. I would not be surprised if Montario Hardesty got fired.
I thought he should have been fired yesterday, my guy. So, I mean, I would not be shocked at it either. I would not be shocked at it in the slightest.
So, but that's all I got. And I will have my prediction ready for you on Thursday. So I will talk to you then, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Go Gamecocks, and to heck with Clemson. To heck with them.
Well said, Robbie. You're the man. I appreciate it.
You too, buddy.
All right, man.
All right.
Later. Great stuff from Robbie Davis, guys. Keep the conversation rolling. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Austin Miller locking in his pick. He's got 31-14 Gamecocks. 31-14 Gamecocks. How about it? Here we go. Let's jump straight to the phone lines here.
From
Peyton.
Peyton, what's up, man? How are you?
Good about yourself, Chris. What's going on, man?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you asking. What's up?
A couple things I'd like to talk to you about today. Number one being, I think we found ourselves a left tackle and Tree Babalade. I think for a true freshman to come in like he did and really hold it down as good as you can ask anyone to do against a talented Georgia front. And I think this past weekend was his coming out game. And I think we can now comfortably say you and I have been saying it for a couple of weeks now, but I think we've found a much better replacement for Sidney Fugar at tackle and Babalade. So I think we got 2 out of the 5 O-lineman starters. We got 2 of them, or we can live with them. We can live with Gargiulo, and we can live with Babalade. Those 2 guys have emerged through 3 games as our 2 cornerstone guys, I feel like. And now it's just time to see who the next guy steps up is. I'll say it's a hell of a blow to have Marquis Anderson out for the rest of the season. That hurts.
especially for that kid. He's super talented, and he needs to see the field as much as he can. But I know he'll be back. He'll be back next season and in the mix for sure. But I think it's going to be exciting to see who the next young guy, or maybe one of these FCS transfers, can make a turnaround. But it's going to be exciting to see who makes the next step on the O line.
Yeah, we got some young guys, man, that are on the up and up for sure. I mean, you mentioned the performance of Big Tree Babalade in Athens, and feel good about what Gargiulo's done to this point. But I'm excited to see 2-3 years from now what the offensive front looks like and what that's going to mean for the Gamecocks offense. I think obviously most of us are really hopeful that Lenoris Sellers will be that next guy, the next big time quarterback in Columbia. So the future's bright, man. The future's bright in Columbia, and obviously it starts with those. Starts with the big uglies up front. So the way they're recruiting and you see those young guys performing well, and who knows, maybe it pays off later this season and we look up game 6 or 7 and South Carolina actually has a competent rushing attack. Wouldn't that be something? So but yeah, definitely I think the future is bright with those young guys and that talent you've brought in.
For sure. It kind of segues into the next thing I want to talk to you about. Recruiting rumblings, man. I know I heard you say a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, but Josiah Thomas earning his 5th star.
Yeah,
respectfully, that's pretty big for a guy as talented as he is. I'm glad to see he gets that validation. Now, stars aren't everything, but it's kind of like running. Kind of like running with track shoes or barefoot. You get a better time. You don't necessarily need track shoes to run track, and you don't necessarily need 5 stars to win, but they sure should help. So I think it's big to see Josiah Thomas pick that 5th star up. I'm looking for Cam Pringle to do the same. But I got a question for you. Have you heard anything about? I mean, Daniel Hill. I know he hasn't. Has he even released the commitment date yet? I know.
No, I've heard nothing new. I'll try to find something out because I'm getting that question a lot, it seems. But I've heard nothing new on Daniel Hill to this point.
Anybody else? Have you heard? I mean, any recruiting rumblings? I mean, it seems like we've kind of hit a wall as the season got underway.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anything, man. I think that. I'm not gonna go full Dan Mullen on you and say that this is the season and that's for recruiting season and we don't talk about recruiting in the season because you never stop recruiting. But I mean, nothing I think that's really all that noteworthy. I mean, like you mentioned, Josiah Thompson got his 5th star, which was really, really cool. But I've heard nothing in regards to new guys committing or anything of the sort. So
I heard you mention Matthew Fuller's name the other day. Are there some issues getting a commitment from him?
Matthew Fuller, the running back, correct?
Yes, sir.
No, I think all I've heard from Matthew Fuller is he's been crushing it. Like his statistics are crazy right now. So people are high on him that he could come in and compete and be a guy in that running back room, which I mean I think anybody's going to have I think anybody's going to have a chance to come compete and have to get reps because there's not a lot of answers in that running back room. So as far as I've heard from Fuller, man, he's doing really, really well.
That's awesome, man. That's always good to hear. He's out of Georgia, right? Plays
yes,
ball in Georgia?
Yes. Fuller is the kid out of Georgia. Yes.
Yeah. But the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, man, is one of the keys I think to victory this week. I think is there any sort of promise about JT Gear coming back anytime soon? Is it this week, next week? Do you have any speculation?
Yeah, Beamer apparently said he did some things in practice today. However you want to take that. I don't think we're really going to know until later this week. I would say, he's been dealing with from what I've heard, it was a high ankle sprain. So it's just one of those tough things where, those things can linger. And it is unfortunate. It is very unfortunate because, this is a guy you picked up and we're counting on out of the transfer portal. So, I think it's just one of those things, man, you cross your fingers and you hope. But it sounded like he did some things today in practice, but I'm not going to hold my breath or anything because you just never know with these injuries, if you will. So.
That's it. Especially with a high ankle sprain, man. You hit the nail on the head. Those things can linger, man. Sometimes they never truly get fixed without surgery, and then sometimes those things just if they're not managed properly, they can really put a hurting on you. So that's at least promising to hear that he's out and he's active and he's mobile and he's doing some things. That's always good to hear. But one of the big keys for this win, we gotta put pressure on Will Rogers, man. I know we haven't been able to do that a whole lot. We had some success doing that with some creative blitz packages this past weekend. Our linebackers played our asses off in Athens. Now, I mean, Stone Blanton had a boneheaded penalty, and maybe we didn't fill some gaps all that well. But I mean, all in all, I think our linebackers had a hell of a performance this past week, and I think if we keep that up and try to help our weak D line create some sort of a pass rush on Will Rogers, I think we've got to knock him off his spot and get Williams-Brice rolling with some defensive play, and I think we should be able to seize control defensively. But I think one of the big things is, like I said, just trying to get a pass rush on Will Rogers, not knock him off his spot.
You got to, man. Can't let him get comfortable for sure. And it's slow down Woody Marks in the running game. You do that, I think you got a really, really good shot.
Sounds like it. So, but I think Rattler should be licking his chops, like you said. I mean, Mississippi State, they're now. I think South Carolina's secondary is just is slightly better, and I don't say that on a whole lot of faith, but I think Rattler should be licking his chops. Him and Leggett. Amarian Brown should make his return this week, right? He was nursing a hamstring.
Yeah, Beamer said he did not practice today, but I think they're hopeful they're going to get him back.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, hamstrings is another one of those things that can linger. I'm just glad Ethan Woolley was able to work through his and give us some valuable snaps last week.
Beamer said he didn't practice today, expects him to be able to practice tomorrow, calls his status questionable for this weekend, which I don't know, man. Gotcha. Questionable in Columbia normally means they're not going to play, but hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll be that as it may. You know, we still got some talent that's yet to be seen in terms of big valuable snaps. I'm obviously hinting at big number 8, Nick Harbor. You know, it's a very real possibility that he's just not ready to play. That's very real, and that could be true, but you know, I think JC said it best. I think his game suffered from progressing, being is that he didn't get in until after spring ball, and he didn't get the first of the summer, and he was out in fall camp. So I mean, he was kind of behind the 8 ball there for a little while, but I think he's slowly progressing. But all in all, like I said, man, I think Rattler's got the talent to make plays against anybody. I think he should be looking his chops against Mississippi State secondary. What do you think?
I mean, I think so as well, man. I mean, I think it sets up well. You look at the numbers. You look at their greatest weakness is South Carolina's greatest strength. I mean, the Gamecocks. I mean, you just look at this game on paper. South Carolina leading the SEC in passing offense, and Mississippi State one of the worst defending the pass. So it does set up well, my friend. It does set up very, very well for Spencer Rattler, especially. He continues his hot play. I don't see anything stopping him on Saturday.
I agree, man. I agree. We're looking forward to more big things from Rattler. I'll holler at you more this week, and we'll talk more in depth. I'm excited to see what the position comparison. That's going to be fun. I'm excited to see a more in-depth breakdown of Mississippi State's roster. I'm not as well versed as I should be, perhaps, as a SEC fan, but I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be a fun night on Saturday. But like I said, I'll highlight you more this week. You take care out there, man. I'll call you tomorrow. Thanks for up, show. Go Cox, buddy. I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks,
Peyton,
man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for the call. Great stuff from Peyton. Yeah, look, I'm excited too, guys. Tomorrow we'll start breaking down Mississippi State. We'll dive into the position unit position unit comparison, which is always a lot of fun. Always creates a stir, it seems. But, yeah, looking forward to it, guys. Another one of those this weekend serves as just another one of those coin flip SEC games in which, for a middle-of-the-pack SEC team, which I think is what South Carolina is, that's not being disrespectful, winning a game like this on Saturday is the difference between having a 6-win season or an 8-win season. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So, guys, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show in style, taking your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, September the 19th, final 10 minutes or so here in the Daily Crow, taking your questions, your comments, your calls. Guys, the phone lines are indeed open. Let me remind you of just a couple of different things. Do not forget, guys, if you want Beamer Ball towels or koozies ahead of this weekend's game against Mississippi State, you have until midnight tonight to place your order to guarantee by kickoff delivery for both towels and koozies. Also, guys, we will have merchandise on hand on Saturday. Everything from T-shirts, hats, koozies, towels, Tervis cups, stickers, you name it. We have got it on hand for you. The S&G parking lot right by Waffle House, right next to Williams-Brice Stadium. Other than that, guys, normal content scheduled this week with TDC, the podcast as well. We are rocking and rolling content, bleeding out of the eyeballs. That being said, let's jump to the phone lines
Call
here.
from Rebecca.
Rebecca, what's going on? How are you?
Good. Hey, I want to tell everybody about something that I did yesterday.
Go right ahead.
Funny. All right, my grandfather needed help to do a brush pile, help him burn it. Well, the point is, I had a Clemson T-shirt, and I done a T-shirt burning of a Clemson T-shirt yesterday, and I recorded it. I said, "This is for all the Clemson fans." And I raised up the T-shirt, and then I put it in the fire pit or the fire hall with the brush.
Wow. I love that.
And then I did a Raiders T-shirt too.
Very nice.
Yeah, you should seen it. I sent you the video on Facebook Messenger.
Did you? Okay, I have not seen that.
Yeah, you should post that on Spurs Up show. Let everybody see it.
I will. I will definitely do that.
I say a lot of them would love to see that.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out, Rebecca. I'd love to see that.
I was up to no good last month.
Up to no good indeed.
Right? I want to call in on Friday for the good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it almost worked. It almost worked.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Will.
If it wasn't for Will. Yep, it was Will's fault. Will jinxed us. Hey, people are asking the question, Rebecca, why did you have a Clemson shirt in the first place? Where'd the Clemson shirt come from?
From a Sunday store up here where I live. I did it because I wanted to do it just for the fun of it, to aggravate I have a cousin down in South Carolina that she's a big Clemson fan, so I thought I'd just do that just to aggravate the car out of it. They got all kinds of T-shirts. Dallas, they got all NFL, college, and everything. And I didn't pay about $1 for that Clemson shirt.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
So you got to think, have you ever heard of them Sunday stores?
I haven't. I cannot say that I have.
Well, it's basically like a little store with all kinds of stuff in it, like little, I don't know. It's called a Sunday store. It's just the way it being like that since I was growing up here. So, like, like a junk store in a way. But it's not.
Okay. I learned something new today. I had no idea what that was.
Yeah. If you ever come to Tennessee, I could show you that Sunday store.
Yeah, we'll have to do that sometime. Why not?
Hey, you'll like it. Even I found some South Carolina Gamecocks t-shirts up here.
Okay.
In that store.
Nice. Very good.
But there's other the old team players, but it's still South Carolina Gamecock t-shirt. The way I look at it.
Yeah. I got you, Rebecca. I got you.
But anyway, I want to get off here, and I thought I wanted to share that to everybody. Post that video up.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, I'll have to get that video. I haven't even seen it yet, so I'll take a look and we'll make it happen, Rebecca. We'll make it happen. So.
Yeah, everybody would get a laugh out of it. I know that for sure. Well, I'm going to get off here. You have a good day, Chris.
Rebecca, I appreciate you calling in. Always a pleasure.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. Great stuff, Rebecca, burning Clemson shirts and whatever. I don't know. Some days are more madness than others. Yeah, Madison Duncan, Chris, tell me about that shirt you're wearing. This is Roback, RHOBACK. Madison, we've actually got a deal with them. Use promo code SPURSUP at checkout on your first purchase. You got to create a new account on their website. But you use that promo code SPURSUP, you get 20% off your entire purchase. This polo is called the Cola. The Cola, C-O-L-A, the Cola. So, I mean, dude, it is so comfortable. Probably the most comfortable polo I've ever put on. Again, 20% off. And so you can't probably tell. It's a bunch of small little states of South Carolinas. That's what makes up this shirt, right? So it's a bunch of state of South Carolinas put together. Really, really cool, man. They sent a hoodie as well, and it's so nice. So highly, highly encourage you guys to check it out. And you'd also be supporting TSUS if you make a purchase from them using that promo code SPURSUP. So really, really good stuff, guys. Appreciate you all. Appreciate you, Madison, asking about that. And thank you all so much, guys, for tuning in. Again, the continued love, support, like I mentioned, support the merchandise side of the business. Get your orders in. Get your orders in by midnight tonight. We will have it to you by kickoff on Saturday. Of course, guys, you're on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon so you get notifications when we go live, when we drop new video content as well. Also, of course, the podcast drops every single day, 5 p.m. Eastern. iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to check that out, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us 5 stars. Leave us a review. Let us know what you like, don't like, etc. Other than that, guys, stay tuned to social media. All the content bleeding out of the eyeballs. And guys, cannot say thank you enough, truly, for all of your love, your support, for making this thing possible. Also, I do have a big announcement coming up, an event taking place in November that I'll let you guys, make you all aware of. Just something on the personal side, nothing crazy. Don't freak out. Doesn't have anything to do with the Gamecocks or really even business. Somewhat has something to do with business, but not really. But I'm just waiting all the details to come in on that. Either way, guys, hey, we've hit 3 o'clock. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.